Hello everybody and welcome to the second part of the Super League season. We are into round 11 of 16, so it's starting to get right towards the end of it now where drivers have to sniff of the Drivers' Championship. My name's Caitlin Penny. I'm joined once again by my good friend Ross McIntyre, and the broadcast director is Remco Zeeuw. But Ross, we are at the Hockenheim ring, and what a delight it is to be here actually, because it's a track that the real world of Grand Prix racing has somewhat left behind, and I've always thought that's a mistake. It's got loads of character, the drivers like it, it's good for racing, and I'm very glad that GPVWC still considers this a worthy track to race on.
As am I. I think it's safe to say this is one of my favourite European circuits. I know that some people sit around and go, oh, but it was better back in the day when it went through the forest. That was over 20 years ago now, so everyone just needs to calm down and move on. We're not getting it back, sorry. But yes, really glad to be here and glad to be back for Super League as well. Lots of interesting events have gone down since the chaos of 2 weeks ago at the Hungaroring for our 10th round of the season. So should mean it's an interesting one coming in here tonight for 67 laps around this 4.5 kilometer circuit through Baden-Württemberg in Germany, only half an hour away from where Sebastian Vettel was born, if that tickles your fancy with that little fact. But as you said, it's a shame that the proper world of Grand Prix racing doesn't really go anymore, but I'm very glad that in sim racing, the love for it is still alive and kicking.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've always thought it's a circuit with a lot of flow. It's a very technical one. You can tell it was designed not necessarily around the topography of the terrain, but it was designed from scratch as a racing facility. As you say, it used to go through the forest. It used to be much, much longer, over twice as long as it is now. And yeah, I know there are those anoraks who sit around going, oh, well, that was the real Hockenheim, and what we got today is just rubbish. But I totally disagree along with you, Ross. I think maybe it worked back in the day when it was a test of the car as well, where engines would be screaming on the rev limiter and melting, and you could see the bits of metal dripping out the back of them as they went through the forest. But realistically, I don't think it was great for racing. I think this kind of circuit is. You have the long run from the final corner all the way through turn 1, just a slight lift through there, and then 2 heavy braking zones going into turn 2, and then of course that very, very tight hairpin, one of the tightest hairpins in the world of Grand Prix racing. And before we get into qualifying actually, since we got time, we're going to be taking around a lap of this circuit by our home hero, Mark Schlitter.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Hockenheim ring. We are approaching turn 1. You want to use as much track as possible. Clip the inside curb, not go out too wide. You open the DRS up to turn 2. And you want to brake just before the 100 meter board. You want to hug the inside as much as possible to have a better line onto the straight. Clip the inside curb here. You open the DRS onto the straight. Longer straight off the track. You want to hug the inside as much as possible to have the shortest run to the hairpin. And so we want to brake just before the 100 meter board again. Want to clip the inside again as much as possible to have a good exit onto the run up to the Mercedes grandstand. Clip the stay to the inside as much as possible after a short run. Brake at the 100 meter board, clip the inside again, not go out too wide. Early throttle, and hug the inside again, not go into the sausage curb. Now we are approaching the Mobile 1 or the Motodrome. Hug the inside, don't go too much on the curb or you're gonna skate out. Now we are approaching the Sachs corner. We have a good run with as much track as possible, and we are approaching the Südkurve with a double apex. Don't go out too wide onto the curb, and that's a lap around the Hockenheim ring.
Fantastic. A beautiful lap from a fantastic German driver who's won Super League Grand Prix in the past but hasn't quite managed to achieve the same feats this year. I think he still has it in him, and I wait to see Mark Schlitter get back on the top step of the podium. Talking of the top step of the podium, we left the last race in Hungary with a little bit of a cliffhanger because obviously Sergio Fletcher crossed the finish line in first position, but we didn't believe that was going to stand, and Sergio himself didn't believe that that was going to stand either. He said in the interview that he expected to get a penalty as a result of an incident that happened with Maciej Winnick, where unfortunately they were fighting for the lead and they made contact as Sergio went into the back of Maciej, and Maciej ended up skittering off towards the barriers. Winnick, of course, came away from that round with 0 points, and he was not happy in the slightest. He ended up lodging quite a few complaints against Sergio Fletcher, not just for that incident, but also for things like track limits and exiting I think it was a pit lane exit infringement as well. And all of those have been upheld. So Sergio Fletcher was actually given 20 seconds worth of penalties in the end, which dropped him from first all the way down into 9th position in the race. A little bit of a shame, because I did think that he drove extremely well at the end of the race especially, but the rules are the rules, and if you get caught out on them, that kind of thing is going to happen. And I'm afraid to say, on that particular incident, the one with Mache, it's pretty clear to me that Sergio was at fault. So I said to him in the interview room at the end, I have nothing against him as a person, and I think that he's great. But he did mess up on that particular occasion, and in the end, it was Carlos Martin who ended up taking the win. So we still ended up with a Spanish driver on top of the podium. We don't have to retroactively change the national anthem that would have been played on the podium at the end of that one. But it was a different Spaniard with Carlos Martin behind the wheel. That means that Yannick Bock was also on the podium in 2nd place. The winning margin in the end was just 6/10ths, there we go, 3rd time lucky, 6/10ths of a second between Martin and Bock, and another Spaniard, Xavi Ross, took 3rd place on that particular occasion. Carlos Martin is not here today though. You can see that he moved himself up to 2nd in the championship as a result of that win, but he is actually missing this race as a result of having moved to Poland, and as a result of his move, he is of course having to move all of his stuff in, having to move his PC, and he is not able to compete in this actual race. Holland Racing Team have brought in a former champion of theirs. Stefan Ruhl will be competing for them today, and I know Stefan will be giving it his absolute all, and I look forward to seeing what he can do in this one. But there you see the championship standings. Loic Meunier still leads it by 22 points, and he has an even bigger advantage than that in practice, because of course he is here today and Carlos Martin is not. Maciej Winnick is 3rd in the championship, although likely to move up into 2nd. I wonder if, I'm sure this is completely unrelated, the fact that Holland Racing Team kind of have 2 poles behind the wheel of their cars now. Of course they will do when Carlos Martin comes back from his new location in Poland. But anyway. Sergio Fletcher, 4th position in the championship. He was demoted down into 9th in that last race, although of course still scored points as a result of that. Jarl Tyen is 5th in the standings, and then you have Norbert Jakob, who missed the last round, Jan Grankvist and Mark Schluter, then Tom Stevens and Yannick Bock. And there is actually something to say on the topic of Jan Grankvist as well. He has a back of the grid penalty today as a result of track limits in qualifying last time out. So both of the Super Venturis will be starting from the back. You have Jan Grankvist right at the back because of his back of the grid order, and Jonas Karala, his teammate, also picked up a penalty after colliding with Maciej Winnick. I'm seeing a bit of a theme there actually. 2 drivers penalised for collisions with Maciej Winnick. It was a hard knock life for the Polish driver last time out. But anyway, we're into the qualifying session, and you can see Stefan Ruhl, the returning champion of 2021, behind the wheel of the HRT, Ross.
He is indeed. Norbert Jakob setting the early benchmark here in qualifying, a 1:12.029. Ruhl has decided that lap not worth his time. There's still plenty of time left in our private qualifying session, of course, for drivers to come back in, stick on some fresh boots, and go again. But it is Jakob using that Magurod power to stick it onto provisional pole by just under 0.5 of a second from Loic Meunier. Then it's Alessandro Maggio in P3, top 3 covered by only 0.07. Maciej Winnick in P4 a little bit further away. Lucas Murno up into P5 for Lion GP. That is great to see. I've always been a very, very big supporter of Lucas Murno and his ability ever since he turned up in Super Lights last season. Lion GP, though, really struggling so far this season. Of course, the Michael Teichmann squad, which has been through many different guys, is formerly known as AKA Hero or Geek Sim Racing, if you go back a couple of years ago, bringing Lion GP on board and also getting Snow Shatten, as they used to be called, the Brazilian sim racer team involved. It's not been great, so good to see that Lucas is up to P5 and Danny Hammer is as well, who's jumped in the car a couple of rounds into the season and struggled to adapt to a Super League car. Good to see he's up to P10 as well with our early laps. But there are still around about 20, what am I talking about? 9 drivers, there we go, that have not set a lap time yet. So that could all change. We could all be seeing them shifting. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is Jakob on top at the moment. Lucas Murno's gone for a little half spin down at the hairpin for good measure, but still P5 not too bad. But again, it is that 112.029 to beat, and Jakob has got a 10th.5 clear in sector number 1, Caitlin. It seems to me, as his teammate now goes to provisional pole, that True North Racing are absolutely on it early doors in this quali.
Yeah, True North right at the north of the timing tower as we speak. Mark Schluter in first place at his home race, and Norbert Jakob looking to improve yet again. Loic Meunier is in third place as we speak, the championship leader. I noticed someone posting a screenshot the other day where Meunier was down in 20th in the practice times, but I knew that wouldn't stand. We always know more from Loic Meunier. Out of the final corner, his car looked absolutely on rails through there, did Norbert Jakob, and he does go back up to pole position by just 5 thousandths of a second, but with a true purple in the third sector. That was very, very good racing there from Norbert Jakob. Did you see how there was not a single twitch in his car through the final couple of corners? He followed the racing line absolutely perfectly. The car didn't even look to be complaining about it, and you can see not quite the same from Fletcher. Little bit more of a rotation on the rear. It looked as if the back was trying to overtake the front slightly, but he still goes up into third position with that lap, and his second sector is where he gained the most of that time. A little bit wide there for Xavi Ross. He's up in the second sector. Can he keep it in the third? Yannick Bott goes up into 8th as we speak, and let's see if his car handles the same. No, because he's coming into the pits, so scratch that, Russ.
Xavi Ross a bit twitchy on the way through to the pit lane as well. Decided that we'll need to go again. It's okay. There's still 7 minutes 40 seconds left in this qualifying session anyway, so you can, of course, once you're in the pit lane in qualifying, you are allowed to hit the escape key to teleport back into the pit lane. If you do that in the race, that is classified as a DNF. But if you're in pit lane and qualifying, it's okay in the warm-up session as well. Or practice, you're allowed to do it as much as you like, because, let's be frank, it's practice and warm-up doesn't really have that much of an effect and give you a performance advantage. Really interesting what you were saying, though, about watching how Jakob and Fletcher are positioning the cars and how they're driving the cars, especially through this final sector here at Hockenheim. Jeffrey Fournier a little bit squirrely over the curbs, but it is a purple sector number 2 for the Red Archer VRT driver. So it does seem that the track is evolving very, very quickly, and the times are getting quicker and quicker and quicker every single time the drivers come to the line into P3, only missing out by pole position by 0.02 of a second there for Jeffrey Fournier. What a fantastic lap from him. But as I was going to say, Jakob, he's a driver who's always very, very consistent, very, very smooth. He's patient with how he drives the car. But then you look at Maggio is also an example. Both Valley Esports drivers really very, very aggressive in their driving style. And I don't know if that's just how you drive the Valley Esports car, if that they set the car up in a certain way. I know these guys do a lot of setup work together across the weeks leading up to a race. Well, I say setup work in inverted commas. It's normally them crashing into each other for a couple of hours at the end of the day. But if they're working together on setups, maybe it's just become a thing where they both like the car to be a bit more aggressive, so you have to drive it aggressive as a result. That being said, Maggio on an absolute stormer here as he comes through to the final couple of corners. Keeps it okay on the curb, straight to the line. The Italian will surely be going to provisional pole, and he does so by 45 thousandths of a second, but there's still time in sector number 3. He cost himself a 10th there at the end.
Yeah, it was a little twitchy through the final couple of corners, but we knew that he was going to be on pole anyway, just because of how far up he was coming into that sector. He was 0.2 up with about 4 corners left in the lap to go. So look out for Alessandro Maggio. He can do even better than that and could still snag pole with an even quicker lap. So Maggio currently at the top, followed by Jakob and Schluter. Here's Schluter to the line looking for an improvement, which he does get. Mark Schluter goes to pole position, provisionally at least, and look at that, over a 10th up in the final sector. So Schluter goes up by 600ths, passes Alessandro Maggio. Norbert Jakob's improving though. Jakob improves again. True North absolutely appear to have the setup to beat here, the car to beat here today. Through the final couple of corners he goes. This is the Satch Curver, the lightly banked corner, which is just beautiful to flick the car into. Then you go into the complete opposite, 2 very flat right-handers. That is flat in terms of topography, not in terms of you can take it flat. Norbert Jakob up to the line. No improvement, stays third. He was slightly down in the third sector though, but not much. His lap was basically the same as the previous ones that he set. It just wasn't quite quicker, so Jakob stays third for the time being. Jeffrey Fournier is still in fourth position, and look out for the Red Archer cars actually. I was saying to Ross and Remco before this started that not many drivers have fresh engines for this race. The only team where both cars have a completely fresh engine is Red Archer, so look out for Jeffrey Fournier to lead their charge. Here comes Yannick Bock, who was second last time out and felt disappointed with it. He said that he could have done better. He pulled an amazing move on the final lap on Xavi Ross, but he said that if he'd qualified better, he wouldn't have even needed to do that and he would have won the race. But into the pits now comes Yannick Bock to set up for one final flying run to see if he can do slightly better this weekend.
Time is now starting to tick away. 3 minutes and 40 left on the clock. If you're quick, I don't think you're going to be able to fit 2 runs in. You're going to have to wait a bit for the track to be as rubbered in as possible before you do one final flying lap. I got to say, when we were on board with the ACAB through the final couple of corners at the Sud curve there, God, the way that the True North car goes through there is absolutely stunning. You can basically treat the last 2 corners as one, it would seem. They are clearly working with something of mightily impressive here this evening. I mean, there's no massive upgrades for True North that are out of the norm. They've only got Mark IV floor and pit crew. Everything else is Mark III. So maybe if the floor, they are the only team with a Mark IV floor in terms of the upgrade package, as Masciuli has missed the pit lane. Oh, he's going to get in trouble for that one, surely. Maybe he'll get away with it. We'll wait and see. But he will have time to go again anyway. But we'll wait to see what the stewards are going to say about that one. But maybe just having that floor upgrade, maybe it makes the car behave a bit better in the final couple of corners. I don't know. But it's clear that it's between them and currently Valley Esports that are going to be the pace setters in this race. The likes of Jeffrey Fournier, Xavi Ross, also up there as well. Some big names yet to settle up. Haven't seen Dylan Fisher out yet. Haven't seen Jarl Tyne out there. Jan Crankfist we haven't seen either, but he will be starting from the back of the grid anyway, so no major surprises there. This will be the final lap for Alessandro Maggio. With 2 minutes and 13 left on the clock. Is this do or die time for the Italian?
So this one really matters for Alessandro now. Slight twitch as he comes out, set the second corner, but not the kind of twitch that really costs you time. That was just him getting the power down. Look how close he is to the inside curve there. Not just close, he's on it. Because he knows he needs to use all of the track that he possibly can. He's on the curb again as he flicks it into the hairpin. Real over-rotation going into the hairpin, but that was completely deliberate because it helps him get through the corner. Now he goes into the technical Mercedes arena, and he's going to have to brake at exactly the right point here to get it turned into the corner. He does do that, doesn't... Oh, that was a bit too much of a twitch there. I think more than he would have wanted. Now he comes towards the... I think it was called the Coca-Cola curve. I'm not sure if it's still is. Mobile 1, there we go. And then into the Sachs curve. He was ever so slightly down in the second sector, but I know he lost time in the third sector before, so if he can hook this up, this could still be an important improvement for him. He only needs to find 600s in order to find an improvement. Across the line he goes. Is it pole for Maggio? It is! And he spins to celebrate. Alessandro Maggio goes 700s up to take pole position provisionally, and there are few drivers who can improve on that. Jose Soriano is one who might. He's 9th in the session as we speak, and coming up towards the line with an improvement in the second sector. 2 corners to the right. The beautiful purple car out of the final turn and over to the line, runs it out over the curb, and 6th for Soriano. Not bad whatsoever. Now what are the True North cars doing with not much time left in the session? Is there still a retaliation still to come from them? Here's Norbert Jakob, ever so slightly down in the first sector. Not unrecoverable though, he's less than a 10th off his best. Norbert Jakob up towards the hairpin, little squirrely on the entry. Runs it out on the exit though, that all looks okay, and then once again towards the Mercedes arena. I'm going to slide this in really quickly while I have the chance, because I'm not sure if I will again. There is one driver making his debut today, that's James Knox, in 21st position as we speak, and he says that he only had about half an hour's notice before this, so I'm very impressed to see that he has apparently outqualified his teammate, especially for the time being. Back to the lap though for Norbert Jakob. An improvement in the second sector, look at that. Into the Sats curve where he goes, ducks it in, touches the inside curb, touches the outside on the exit, and now through the final 2 corners at the end of the lap. He accelerates towards the line. Is it pole position for Jakob?
Oh!
300ths of a second. 300. And look at
Schluter's going
Schluter.
Schluter. Oh, this is as tight as you want this qualifying session, isn't it, Caitlin? Mark Schluter to snatch it away from Alessandro Maggio. Yes, he gets it by 400ths of a second. Mark Schluter at his home Grand Prix has just broken Italian hearts. But Javi Ross could be trying to upset the apple cart as well now.
It's not going to be enough, I don't think. That's a phenomenal lap from Mark Schluter there right at the end. And it's so close amongst the top guys. Ross, I think, was a little leery through the Satch curve there and on the exit. I don't think it was going to be enough anyway, but he could still snag a top 5 maybe. Out of the final corner, up towards the line. And 7th. Okay, oh, 8th. He's actually been demoted there by Lucas Murno. So Murno snatches 7th, snatches 6th right at the end. And Xavi Ross, with that final run, unfortunately unable to improve, goes down into 8th position. So that's the lot then. Mark Schluter takes pole position by just 400ths of a second. The top 5 are separated by 1/4 of a second. And here you see how they stand. So Schluter is on pole, followed by Maggio, Jakob, Fournier, Fletcher, Murno, Soriano, Ross, Munier, and Winnick, the top 10. And Maggio from second there, you may be thinking, who cares, he's going to disconnect anyway. I've been told he has better internet for today, so we'll see how that fares. Yannick Bock is 11th, Masculi is 12th, then it's Wok, Shepard, and Amaritz. If we were scoring points, it would go down to there. Then it's Oscar Soltero with a fresh engine in the Spark. Then Stefan Rohr on his return could only manage 17th. Tom Stevens will be disappointed with 18th as well. Younes Caruella, a much better qualifying than last time out. Look out for the Super Venturi car there, 19th place. Although he will be further back because of a penalty. Philip Pushke is 20th, although I think will be elevated to 19th as a result of Caruella's grid penalty. And then James Knox on debut out-qualifies his teammate. So James Knox is 21st. Owen McGorgy only 22nd. And Shimon Frelick 23rd, so TOP really struggling. That's uncharacteristic. Tom van der Voort is 24th for Drake. Then it's Daniel Scott in the other Fraser Turton racing car. Jan Granqvist, who was going to start at the back anyway, so no real surprise to see him not setting a qualifying lap. Jarl Tyne is 27th and Dylan Fisher are 28th. We do not know why those two drivers didn't set a flying lap in this qualifying session. Maybe they had an accident that we didn't see. But anyway, Ross, that's the qualifying session. Very close up front. How many people do you reckon have a chance of this race? 5, 6?
Oh, at the very least, potentially even 7 as well. I mean, what a qualifying session that was, and great to see 2 teams duking it out right the way to the checkered flag. Of course, Fletcher just dropping away a little bit at the back end of the qualifying session. But Schluter, Maggio, Jakob were all right on it, and any one of those 3, quite frankly, could have been on pole position on a different day with slightly different conditions. So wow, kudos to all of those guys. And it is, of course, a True North 1-3 and a home pole position for Mark Schluter as well. By 400ths of a second, top 3 covered by less than 1/10 of a second. That is proper sim racing qualifying that. None of this, oh, look at that, I'm taking pole by over 1/10. No, we want it to be close, because it means the racing should be close as well. It was really interesting to see, I will just say, the Valley Esports guys running on the curb through the Parabolica. That's the big turn number 4 on the run down to the hairpin in the end of the first sector, start of the second sector. Normally, you don't want to run that curb. The typical school of thought is actually running the curb scrubs off speed, but Valley clearly happy to run it. It is, of course, a slightly shorter line, so maybe they know something that we don't. Everyone else was running a more traditional line, but what a qualifying session that was. We got a 10-minute warm-up and then 67 don't laugh laps to enjoy here at the Hockenheim ring in Baden-Württemberg in Germany. And Caitlin, you were waxing lyrical about what a shame that this circuit isn't on the Grand Prix calendar proper up in Formula 1 and whatnot. And well, I have to agree with you, because when you've got qualifying sessions like that at the very pinnacle of R-Factor 2 sim racing, why not send the actual superstars out there?
Yeah, 100%. I am not surprised at all to see it be so close. Of course, it's a relatively short lap, so that does skew it somewhat, but even so, the numbers don't lie. And the top 3 being separated by 1/10 of a second just speaks volumes, doesn't it? Since I mentioned earlier, actually, I'm going to quickly bring up the fact, I did say earlier that Mark Schluter still had it in him, didn't I? Wasn't I saying that right at the start of the broadcast? And then he goes and takes pole position, so congratulations to Mark Schluter from that. Still a long way to go from here, though. As you said, 67 laps, which I had not realized until now. No, what I was going to say just then, I mentioned earlier that very few drivers have a fresh engine for this one. I wonder how much that is going to play into it. There are only 5 drivers who have a completely fresh engine for it. I've just been trying to figure out exactly who those drivers are. Obviously, I said we have both Drake, yeah, sorry, bear with me a second. So both Red Archer cars have the fresh engine. So that's Jeffrey Fournier and his teammate Chris Shepherd. They both have fresh engines. Yannick Bock has a fresh engine as well, and considering that he scored a podium last time out, he is definitely going to be one to look out for today. Also, Jose Soriano, who I think is inside the top 10 in that qualifying session. And also Oscar Soltero has a fresh engine as well. So those are the drivers that I've managed to pick up on who have completely fresh engines. But yeah, like I said, really not that many of them. There are also some drivers running very old engines indeed, some which have way less than half of their life left. I wonder if the reason for that is because they used all of their fresh engines at some of the really power-hungry tracks like Spa and Silverstone and that kind of thing. And we also have some more power-hungry tracks coming up. I mean, the next race, for example, is Monza. That's about as power-hungry as you can get. So I reckon drivers are, first of all, starved for engine life, and second of all, trying to save and conserve the engine life they do have for the next couple of races. And it's going to be interesting to see just how that ends up affecting this race, as you have drivers with completely new motors up against drivers running on basically anything they could find in the garage.
Absolutely. Of course, it is going to be a difficult race for the drivers anyway, I think, coming into this one, because, well, we thought it was hot last time out at Hungary. Unfortunately, Andy Burnham left the weather machine on, and it's even hotter across Europe today. Today was the hottest day on this year so far for us in the UK. So any British-based drivers are going to be really struggling. So, of course, you've got to factor in the temperature for the drivers themselves sat in the sim rigs. Of course, it may be cooler for some drivers if it's a bit later in the night for them, or they're in a slightly colder climate. But again, across Europe, it's been pretty brutal today. So you've got to deal with that and factor in the heat and the fatigue that's going to come with that, but also the temperature in the game as well, because that, again, it was hot and hungry. It is off the scale right now in virtual Germany. 35 degrees C air temperature, 53.2 degree track temperature. That is going to make mincemeat of the rubber. So you're then starting to think, okay, well, if we're going to be struggling with the temp, of course, you could do things to the pressures, to the toe, to the camber to manage the temps a little bit better, but that may hurt you down the line in terms of your race pace. So then you start to thinking, okay, well, do we push the tyres a little bit harder than we want to, but then we can extract more pace out of them? We know they're not going to last, and just commit to the 3-stop as well. So lots of things that the teams will be thinking about with this heat. The drivers, of course, will certainly be feeling it if they are based out of Europe at the moment in our heat wave number 4 or 5 or whatever it is that we've had across 2026. So I think it's going to be a very, very difficult race for everybody involved, but I think we're going to have an absolutely fantastic race as well. And potentially, let's just say, for the hypothetical, that it is Mark Schluter that wins this evening. That would be a 7th different race winner in the last 7 races as well, which, if that doesn't say these new regulations are working and equaling out the field a little bit and getting everybody involved, getting everybody fighting, I don't really know what does.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year we had quite a few different winners as well, but this year has really been something else. And Carlos Martin, I mean, he was one driver we were waiting for to take a win. I knew it would happen. But it's a shame we never got to call him across the line when he did. So I'd like to say a very, very late congratulations to Carlos Martin, and I hope that we do see you back soon. And of course, I hope that your move is going well. There are some things that are bigger than sim racing in life, and life stuff is one of those things.
Carlos's Polish girlfriend is apparently one of them. So, but no,
yes.
I like what you say. All the best, Carlos, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon.
But with that being said, I absolutely agree that the regulations are helping the action. One of the things that I do like is the reduction of the DRS from 1 second back to 7/10 back. Last year there were so many races that were just defined by this DRS train, and this year we're seeing much less of that. And we're seeing different strategies as a result, you know? I mean, before this one, Remco was saying to us that, well, GPWC in the past has just been a bit of a train. And there have been times where it absolutely been that way. But I was just looking back at the results from the Super Lights race the other day, back on Tuesday, if you didn't see it. We had drivers in the top 10 who did 1 stop, 2 stops, and 3 stops, meaning that we as commentators today don't really know what to expect coming into this one. As you were saying, Rob, I think... Rob? My goodness, I swear I've called you that in the past.
It's the heat, it's the heat. I'll let you off.
It is, and what I was about to say is that the heat does cause the tyres to overheat a little bit and degrade. We saw that in Hungary as well. The only driver who took soft tyres more than once in the race was Owen McGorgy, and that turned out to be a mistake. It was because his sim glitched and he couldn't change tyres. So that was a complete mistake, and I very much doubt that we'll be seeing the same thing from anyone today. I think medium and hard tyres are going to be the way to go, just as they were at the Hungaroring. But also on the flip side, it's easier to overtake here than it is at the Hungaroring. So you want to be on the best rubber so that you can overtake people and make up time. So it's a lot more up in the air than it would have been in the past. And I think that it's one of those races where we come in going, oh yeah, it's going to be a good one, just as we always do, and actually really especially mean it.
Absolutely. And another thing with the tyres as well is the heat, it's going to change what you actually do with them. I know I kind of briefly mentioned, thinking about how you're going to approach it in terms of strategy, but also with these heat, you actually want to pump a couple of extra pounds of pressure into the tyres, so there's less contact patch with the road, less friction, less heat, makes it a little bit easier to manage the tyre temperature, but then you do that at the sacrifice of grip, but also pumping air into the tyres raises the car slightly off the ground. I mean, we're talking millimeters here, but these are the kind of things that matter at this level of racing and of motorsport and sim racing alike. Yeah, raises the car, can potentially unbalance the car as well, so it behaves differently in the corners. Then you've got a situation where if the car's behaving differently in the corners, your pressures aren't going to match up when they're running at full temp, which is what you're aiming for. So the heat, when it's this bad, opens a whole can of worms, quite frankly. So I'm going to be interested to see how people are negotiating the tyre issues this evening. It is Jose Soriano that is leading the way in this warm-up session with just over a minute to go, a minute and 15 seconds soon to be. 2/10 clear of Maciej Winnick. Tom Stevens in P3, THR, again a team that has been struggling a little bit recently. The Yaltai no lap time set in qualifying for him, and Tom Stevens a bit further down the order than we've expected to see the Englishman being given his ability and his experience over the last couple of years. So if he does have the race pace, that'll be good to see him out there and see what he can do and move THR to the front as well. So we shall wait and see. Could be an interesting one, but I think again, Caitlin, the 3 cars we've got right at the top in qualifying, those are the ones that you'd expect to be going away, but the DRS here can be quite powerful. There's lots of places to overtake here at Hockenheim as well, so it could also just be another absolutely chaotic race.
I think it could. I'm hoping that because there are a few more opportunities to overtake here, it means the drivers are going to be a little bit less desperate than they were at the Hungaroring. I think that's one of the reasons that we saw a couple of the incidents that we did at the Hungaroring, because people knew they weren't going to get other opportunities. So when Fletcher went into the back of Winnick, for example, I'm not really sure that was an overtaking opportunity at all. I think he was just trying to catch Winnick out, catch him out a little bit, and it just went a little bit wrong and he went into the back of him. But at this circuit, you know that if you don't pass them on one particular straight, there are always more opportunities. There's more straight mode zones as well, so there's always more chances to open that rear wing flap if you're within 0.7 of a second of the car in front of you, and that could really help with overtaking. But yeah, as you said, I think that it definitely changes the strategy options as well, because you don't have to consider quite so much getting stuck in traffic or anything like that. The warm-up session has now ticked to a close. As you said, it is Jose Soriano who set the fastest lap in this session, and he's one of just 5 drivers who has a fresh engine coming into today. So look out for Jose Soriano starting inside the top 7 as it is. My pre-qualifying prediction for the win would have been Yannick Bock. I personally think right now that you're looking at a battle between at least probably the top 3. You have both of the True North cars who seem to be absolutely really on form, but also Alessandro Maggio, who seemed to be absolutely going for it in that session, and supposedly has better internet, although when it comes to Alessandro Maggio, we'll believe it when we see it. And yeah, I mean, he's got to make the most of it, right? We don't know how long that's going to last for. So please, let's hope that Alessandro has a good race. I think if I had to pick anyone, I'm going to say Alessandro Maggio for the win today.
Okay, I don't mind that at all. Again, we know how good Maggio can be. He's a driver that kind of needs a lot to click to fully execute a race plan. His one-lap pace is probably one of the quickest, if not the quickest, got in GPVWC as a whole, let alone in Superleague. But he needs a lot of things to click over a race to ultimately be on the top step of the podium. Things like, we know he struggles a little bit with the tyres. That has improved over 2026. Yes, his tyre management, but in general, he does seem to struggle a little bit. But I think the pace is certainly there for him. Again, we'll wait to see if his new internet is going to last. I mean, to be fair, his internet has also been much better so far this year, but it's gone from at a snail's pace to he's got 100 meg up and I think 120 down now, so he was a very excited man when that got installed yesterday. That being said, though, Mark Schluter, 3-time race winner in GPVWC Super League, someone with so much experience behind him and really knows how to drive a car. And then, of course, you've got Norbert Jakob as well in P3, who's been so impressive. So in 2026, in only his second year of GPVWC competition, I'm going life savings on Jakob personally. Just because I think it'll be really funny when he meets the wall at about lap 38 or so. No, joking aside, I think it's a tough call. I could see Jakob doing it. I could see Schluter holding off. I could see Maggio staying there. I could see somebody else coming in as well. For me, Caitlin, I think we just need to wait for a couple of laps for the race to calm down before we can make that decision.
Jakob in the wall on lap 30. Clip that. At least we can have no doubt as to what Ross's biases are. Anyway, we have just a few minutes to go until the start of the 2026 German Grand Prix. And we are back and away for the formation lap. How is that for timing? My goodness.
I think that's the best one we've done so far.
Totally agree with you there, my goodness. And thank you to Remco de Zeeuw for knowing exactly what I was trying to queue up there. Let's have a look at the grid order once again, shall we, Remco? As we bring that up onto the screen. I will talk a little bit about why the drivers who didn't set laps, because we've had some updates on that. But Mark Schluter is on pole position, followed by Alessandro Maggio, Norbert Jakob, and Jeffrey Fournier going from 4th place on the grid with a fresh engine. Look out for Jeffrey today. Sergio Fletcher is P5, Lucas Murno is P6, then Jose Soriano and Xavi Ross, who was on the podium last time out. Again, look out for Xavi today. Into P9, we have Loic Mounier, championship leader and reigning champion, alongside Maciej Winnick, who should take 2nd in the championship today. Yannick Bock is 11th, and then it is Eris Masciuli in 12th place. Tomasz Vock is 13th, followed by Chris Shepard, Davi Amaritz, and Oscar Soltero. That is the champion's teammate, going from 16th on the grid. 17th is going to be Stefan Rohr on his return to Super League. Then it's Tom Stevens in 18th, Philip Pushkay in 19th, and on his debut, James Knox will start inside the top 20. A very promising showing in qualifying from James Knox. Owen McGorgy and Shimon Frelich will go from 21st and 22nd in the TOP Esports cars. Tom Vandervoort is 23rd, and then Daniel Scott is 24th in the other FTR. Jarl Tyne is 25th, Dylan Fisher is 26th, and then we have 2 penalised Super Venturis going from the back of the grid with Yunus Carola and Jan Grankvist. A little bit of an update, Dylan Fisher apparently didn't set a lap because of a crash in qualifying just then. He crashed out at turn 1, so he's got a lot of ground to make up. Jan Grankvist, we already knew, didn't go out because he didn't have a reason to. He was going to start at the back of the grid anyway. The only driver whose reason for not setting a lap we don't know is Jarl Tyne, so we'll have to try to chase that up later. Onto the grid we go then. Ross, any final words before we see the chaos play out?
Good luck, have fun. If you make it through turns 2 and 4 in one piece, you should be all right for the rest of the race.
I think you should. You can see here Mark Schluter glancing up at the lights, the 5 red lights that are going to illuminate and then extinguish. And once they do, we will be underway for 67 laps of racing here at the Hockenheim circuit. And here come the lights. I saw them lighting up. We can't see them, and we can see them again. And go for the German Grand Prix. Mark Schluter gets away, turns the wheels. Maggio's up his inside though. It hasn't been the best of starts. And now look at Jakob coming through into 3rd position. He started 3rd and he keeps it on the exit of turn 1, but takes a look up the inside now of Alessandro Maggio. Leaves his braking later and he's still there on the apex. A little bit of a twitch from Fournier as well, but he keeps 4th place. Murnau and Meunier were side by side on the exit of the corner, so you can see that Meunier has gained a couple of places and he's going around the outside of the Parabolica up towards the braking zone. Look at Jakob now. Jakob on the inside as they bump wheels ever so slightly, and it's a true north 1-2, 3 wide in the background, 3 wide with Murnau and Meunier, and a little bit of a kick of oversteer from Fletcher as well, and he gets away with it. And as we complete the first half lap, it is those 2 True North cars, 1st and 2nd, followed by Maggio, Fournier, Murnau, Meunier and Fletcher. But Fletcher runs a little bit wide. Does Soriano get a chance? He'd have to stick it around the outside if he did, and he is not quite able to do so. I think Maciej Winnick dropped back as well. Winnick dropped back a few positions at the start there. He's down to 26th, 27th position. He's still dropping. Winnick is at the back, so something's happened here to our 3rd place driver in the championship as he drops right to the back of the order, and that's a wing missing. Is that Dylan Fisher? It's Yannick Bock. So Yannick Bock, from 11th on the grid, has dropped down to the back of the order and will have to make a pit stop as he is missing his front wing, and Winnick comes in as well. I think there may have been a collision, possibly between the 2 of them. We're going to see a replay now. Bock goes, he's already lost his front wing, and it looks, and by that point Winnick is already struggling. So something's happened by this point, and I think it must have been between the 2 of them, Ross.
It's got to be coming down into turn 2, surely. A bit of contact, somebody missing the brakes, or a spin, and the inability to avoid the car stationary on the road. But disastrous opening lap for the 2-time world champions home Grand Prix. Yannick Bock, that is a slow trundle out of the pit lane, although Winnick, there's got to be some big old damage on that car because he's been stationary for quite some time now. So we'll have to see if we can find out what happened with Maciej's HRT, but we'll push onwards for the time being. It is still a True North 1-2. Schluter ahead of Jakob, who's under pressure from Maggio. Lucas Murnau now up into 4th place. The Brazilian has worked his way through Jeffrey Fournier. Fournier ahead of his fellow countryman in the reigning world champion of Loic Meunier. Then it's Jose Soriano, Sergio Fletcher, Thomas Fach and Oscar Soltero. That is your top 10 as things currently stand as we do begin the 3rd lap of this contest here at the Hockenheim ring. So looks like everyone, apart from, as we saw with Winnick and with Yannick Bock, made it through pretty cleanly on the first couple of laps. So now it's about getting your head down and thinking, okay, what are we doing strategy-wise? How are we managing the tyres? How are we managing the heat? Is it a case of we need to get into clear air to cool the tyres off because we want to go long, or is it, we'll just abuse them and figure it out later down the line? Right now, though, the one thing that's certain is that True North are sat very, very comfortably in 1 and 2. We are on board with James Knox, who's of course stepping in to the 41 Fraser Tartan car very, very last minute this evening, and he does have a German tribute as well, which is quite nice. But of course, big congratulations to the Briton on making his maiden Super League start this evening. Hopefully everything goes well for him. Currently trying to put the pressure on Eros Masciuli as it stands, but not quite close enough to launch a move just yet. I think he is actually the leading FTR car as well. Yeah, he is, because he's in front of his teammate of Dan Scott. So James Knox having a very good run of things here, 3 and a bit laps into his Super League career.
It's James Knox. I'm looking at his racing record in Super League. He's only made 4 starts in Super Lights with a best result of 16th place and 3 DNFs, so doesn't even have much experience in this kind of machinery. He's made some FS1 starts with a best result of 4th position. That was earlier this year, and he's also made some FS2 starts. He's actually got quite a few wins in FS2, although started the season late, so despite his 4 victories, he's down in 7th position in that particular championship. Also, I didn't realise Christian Glumseter was leading FS2, but yes, the Dane doing very, very well in that. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. Back to the Super League action. You can see Stefan Roth here making a move into the top 15, going past Philip Pushke. So Stefan Roth up into 15th position. And don't forget, this isn't like the real world of Formula 1, where you only get points if you're in the top 10. The points paying positions go down into 15th position. So Stefan Roth would be gaining 1 as we speak. His teammate Maciej Winnick has rejoined the race, although he's a long way down in last position. And on the day where he should have been taking the championship lead, taking second in the championship, the lead is a bit far off. On the day when he should have been taking second in the championship, he's in danger of losing 3rd place in the championship now. And I think it's unlikely for him to score any points from that far back. So if the first lap incident was indeed anything to do with him, at least in terms of who the blame should be left at, then that is a big blow to Maciej Winnick. But of course, if it's not his fault, that's the 2nd race in a row where he's been taken out of a points-paying position against his will. Against his will, that's a silly turn of phrase. You know what I'm saying. Maciej Winnick, a very unlucky driver these last couple of races, and he should have significantly more points than he does, Ross. Oh, and Mounier just got 5th. So Mounier up into 5th position, fighting with Geoffrey Fournier, and that is a change of position.
It certainly is, and the more points that Loic Mounier can get in this race, the more advantage he gives himself on the run to potentially being the first back-to-back champion we've had in Super League in a long old time. And again, the pendulum just seemingly continuing to swing the way of the Frenchman. While, yes, the likes of Winnick have been very, very unlucky this season, you could argue that Loic Mounier has been a very, very lucky boy across this season. But then you could also argue that you do make your own luck, because he has also been absolutely outstanding, as you'd expect somebody the caliber of Loic Mounier to be. So it's all going the way of the Frenchman, of the reigning world champion across 2026. And, well, 10 and a bit rounds now. We're on lap 6 out of 67 here in Baden-Württemberg. And yes, up to 5th place, and with his nearest championship rival Carlos Martin not being here today, the man who is his realistic nearest championship rival in Maciej Winnick is dropped 2 points behind Carlos after that crazy race last time out. He is last by 20 seconds back to Yannick Bocco. Himself is 27 seconds back from the next nearest driver. Maggio is starting to put a little bit of pressure into the back of Norbert Jakob. Lucas Murno is also there with a Loic Mounier as well. So we've got a train back to about Jose Soriano. And it's interesting that we've got 6 different teams in this 7-car train as well, ignoring the 1, 2, 4 True North. And there is mediums on Geoffrey Fournier as well. So soft tyres seems to be the tyre of choice up the front. Sergio Fletcher, interesting that Valet is splitting their strategies given their pace in qualifying. But mediums for Geoffrey Fournier, will keep a very, very keen eye on that one. We do have a yellow flag out in sector number 2, but it's gone as quickly as it arrived. Now I think it's more the waiting game, kind of a game that we saw a lot across 2025, where it's early in the race, conditions are not great, it's really, really hot out there on the track, and the air temp as well. So I think this is very much a patient opening stint for everyone. Just run your own race, manage your tyres, see who pulls the pin first and what everyone else is doing, and then you can really start to get a shift on. Seems the yellow flag was the cause of Daniel Scott in the FTR car. Let's have a look as he's run very, very deep coming out of the Mercedes arena and on the run down into Mobile 1. But looks like he's got away with it. Was there then an error coming into the arena section? No, it doesn't look it. There may have been an issue for Davi Amares though, as he's also on his way into the Mercedes arena. Let's have a look what's happened for the Brazilian. Locks it up, almost collects somebody, and then a very lazy spin for the Lion GP car, but does do a quick 360 and gets it going once again. No casualties there.
Yeah, I knew the Daniel Scott off wouldn't have caused a yellow flag there. It was just too quick. That was Tom van der Voort that he ran into the back of there, Davia Maritz. But both drivers have gotten away with it in the grand scheme of things, at least definitely more than they could have done. Both wings still attached to both cars. And that's all that really matters, even though Davia Maritz probably will not have the tyre life that he would have done otherwise. I'm going to say something a little controversial, which is I don't think that the tyre compounds that you see the drivers on in these early stages really matter that much. Obviously, you do have some drivers on hard tyres. They will be going later on into the race without making their first pit stop. But between the softs and the mediums, there's so much degradation in this kind of temperature that I really don't think there's going to be much difference between when they actually make their pit stop. And I think that it's the tyre compound they go onto for the second stint that's really going to matter. Obviously, the softs do have a little bit of an advantage at the start, and that's one of the reasons that Meunier has been able to come through the pack as he has. But they will drop off again towards the end of the stint, and that's the balance that you need to find. But anyway, it looks as if David Moritz has had another off, so we're going to watch that for the Lion GP car. And if it's another... It's interesting because the first issue that he had appeared to be a front brake lockup, and the second issue that he has appears to be a rear brake lockup. So David Moritz there not looking particularly comfortable out there as we speak. Possibly needs to turn the brake pressure down a little bit.
Yeah, maybe he kind of just overreacted, sent the brakes rearward, and it's just pivoted the car around. Or, you know, if this was proper motorsport, I'd say there's something weird going on with a lot of the electrics that you employ in a modern formula braking system nowadays. But in sim, in R-Factor 2, I don't think we could quite model that. That's very much just the manual hydraulic brakes, I think, have been sent all the way to the rear to counteract from the front lockup we saw earlier on, have been sent a bit too far. It's still Schluter from Jakob, from Maggio, from Murno, from Meunier, your top 5. Meunier, though, is now starting to put Murno under a lot of pressure. There was a big nose to the inside of the Lion GP car from the Frenchman, and desperately trying to fill the mirrors. Oh, that's late from Loic Meunier. It is contact, and round goes the world champion. And we've got a big collision as it's Jose Soriano with nowhere to go. Loic Meunier sent it from downtown, but it was a gap that was always going to disappear. And as Murno came across him, they came together. A rare mistake from the Frenchman. And now the World Championship has another twist here at the Hockenheim ring.
My goodness, I've just watched that back, and you were right when you said it was late. He came from absolutely nowhere. Loic Meunier sent it, it went completely wrong, and unfortunately Jose Soriano completely the innocent victim there, but you don't need me to tell you that. He got absolutely wiped out. Meanwhile, oh my goodness, okay, so this for Loic Meunier is a little bit of a reprieve for Mathieu Winnick, because unfortunately Winnick is out of the race, and Maggio's out! Oh my goodness! This whole time we've been teeing up his better internet, we've been saying that for once Maggio might be able to finish the race, and he's out! What on earth is going on here? So Maggio is out, Meunier is not quite out, he's put on a new front wing. We're going to see a replay of something, one of the two incidents. This is Alessandro Maggio, and I pray to everything that may or may not exist that this is not a disconnection, because... And it is!
Oh my god.
What does this guy have to do? What does he have to do to get a race finish? That's 4 DNFs in a row now from the guy who last year I think got about 9 DNFs in a row. And Alessandro Maggio, I say this every time, I don't know why anyway, sorry, let's react to this incident for Loic Meunier. Completely his mistake. I'm so sorry to say that, but it really is. And for the world champion, you would not expect a mistake like that. And if he gets any points out of this one, he will be incredibly lucky, and possibly, if you ask Jose Soriano, undeserving. Because watch this, Jose Soriano is going to be wiped out in the most unceremonious of ways. Nowhere he could have gone. My goodness me.
Yeah, that's a real shame there. I will just check the rule book because, again, it's always a bit squiffy over how you're allowed the corner, essentially. When does the corner become your right to that corner? Because that was really tight, and it was a big send from Meunier. But you could argue that maybe, yes, his front axle was in front of Murno's axle, but at that point, Murno had already committed to his line and was probably unsighted to the Frenchman. And then, of course, with the collision afterwards with Soriano as well. So just a very messy incident at the Mercedes arena section as a whole. Seems like Winnick just decided he'd had enough, pulled into pit lane and retired. Alessandro Maggio, though, man. I mean, I think you said it all, Caitlin. The guy just can't catch a break. And it's, you know, sometimes you can have a little chuckle to yourself and go, oh, you know, Maggio's internet again. But when you're fighting for the lead of the race in GPVWC Super League, and it happens yet again. And then you got to think as well, I mentioned this back in the pre-season test, if anybody remembers that, where I said Valley Esports placing a lot of trust in Alessandro Maggio, because yes, he's quick, but the internet issues are such a big problem. And again, it was a similar time last year when they really became a problem. There was 6 internet disconnects in a row for him last year. Went out up to 4, I believe it is, in 2026, or 4 across the whole season anyway. And it's just one of those things. I always say that your internet is basically your sim racing version of reliability, because it just strikes you and there's nothing you can do about it, except for the fact that if you've got bad internet, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Back to the action. Jarlstein has got a very easy move to make on Philip Puška, and through goes the 2025 vice champion, and the THR up to 13th place after not setting a lap time in qualifying. His teammate is working his way through, Owen McGorgy, as Tom Stevens gets up into 9th, and that is aggressive as well. McGorgy nearly dropping the rear on the run out of the Mercedes arena. So McGorgy, again, TOP seemingly offered in qualifying, but McGorgy, we know how quick he is across a race distance. He feels like he probably would have, or he probably feels he was robbed at Hungary. He was absolutely the favourite after qualifying to take the race victory, but that glitch which left him stuck on the soft tyres just meant he couldn't do anything, and he ultimately retired. So let's see if we can get a little bit of redemption here today.
Yeah, McGorgy's up 11 places from his starting position. Look, that's quite incredible from the start, considering we're only 13 laps into the race. Although that was actually a move that Stevens put on McGorgy, so that's a little bit of a dent in his progress so far. And that move was going on for several corners before we picked up on it. McGorgy and THR are a bit of a rivalry as old as McGorgy's career in Super League. He's been a thorn in the side of the THR squad for as long as he's been here, and I was a little bit worried that that was going to go the wrong way there, but luckily they ended up keeping it clean, and Stevens ended up pulling the move. Here you see Stefan Rort now up into 12th position and on the tail of Chris Shepherd. I was expecting a little bit more from Stefan in qualifying, considering the pace and performance that we've seen in the past from our former 2021 champion, but Stefan Rort has made progress in the early stages of this race. Jan Grankvist, here's a driver we haven't really seen much of yet. Of course, started from the very back as a result of that grid penalty, along with his rookie teammate Jonas Karala. You would have expected Grankvist to have made more progress. Again, another former champion that we're watching here, but Jonas Karala has stuck with him, hasn't he? Just 3 seconds back at the current time. And part of that, of course, will be Grankvist starting on those hard tyres and trying to go further into the race. But if you're not making progress against your opponents, then that's really not going to end up making much of a difference at all. I've just checked the YouTube chat for the first time today as well. Thank you to everyone who's been leaving comments so far. And hello to my good friend Dave Goddard, commentator of BARC in the real world of motorsports. But also, I appear to have caused an international incident, so thank you very much to everyone who's pointed that out. Denmark is not Norway. I would also like to apologise to Christian Glomseter for that, because clearly I misread his driver profile. So my apologies. Christian Glomseter, of course, Norwegian and not Danish, and I do apologise as well to anyone who may be watching from the governments of Denmark or Norway.
Caitlin Penny, clearly never allowed into either of those countries ever again on holiday or anything like that. But easily done. Whoa, we're going for a bit of a ride there. Shimon Frelick in the TOP car, as push came to shove on the run out of the Mercedes arena, and the Polish driver now down to 17th place. He's been having a really rotten run of form recently, has Shimon, a driver who is a race winner in Super League. We know he can compete right at the top, but 2026 just really hasn't gone his way. Hockenheim seems to be a similar story, as he's just been muscled out of the way by Dylan Fisher. I know there's not much of a relationship between that pair of them, so they will get the elbows out and get aggressive if they feel like they need to. But it's still early doors in this race. We're not even at the first pit stops yet on lap 15 of 67. So I don't see why you'd be willing to start fighting just yet, unless somebody's annoyed you a little bit. In fact, it wasn't Fisher that shoved Frelick off. It was, in fact, the driver in front, now up into 15th place and in the points. So, yes.
Philip Puška.
Yeah, it is Philip Puška. So I wonder if they were having a bit of a ding-dong, maybe. Also, actually, Puška tried squeezing. Was that Eros Masculi, potentially, I'm going to assume it is? So Puška tried squeezing Masculi, which was a bit rude. Let's see if Masculi did have a right to that corner. And oh no, that's on Philip Pushka. Pushka has not left any room. That is not like Mounier, where Masculi has come from yards back and out of nowhere. Masculi absolutely had a right to that corner, and that's very, very naughty from Philip Pushka. If you ask me, not someone you'd expect really from someone as experienced with the background that the German had. The Masculi's now up to 14th. And then, yes, Shimon Frelick, I was saying, is having a rotten run of form. In that incident, actually, a bit of an innocent bystander. Chris Shepherd has come into the pits for Red Archer VRT. Now, is this the first of our pit stops proper? The tyres haven't updated for him, but he'll get back going once again, presuming it was a pit stop anyway. We'll wait and see to see what the tyres are going to be doing. But still on from the top end of the field, but Shepherd has come in. Tyres still saying softs out there on the racetrack. Let's just have a quick look at the live timing and see what that is saying for Chris Shepherd. And it's saying soft tyres, so committing to a 3-stop if that is the case.
Yeah, possibly even more than that. I mean, oh, and that's a late move there. Oh, and Pushka is being pushed, and does he go back into the track? Fischer there with a little bit of a touch with Frelick as well, but it was Philip Pushka who ended up rotating, and that's just one lap after that little incident that he had with Frelick and also with Masculi, and unfortunately this time it has got a little bit uglier. He's recovered in 19th position, so one place ahead of his teammate Tom van der Voort. Those two will run in formation for a little bit. As into the pits comes Tomasz Vok, and also I think Norbert Jakob must be in because he's dropping down the order. No, I think Jakob just lost 2 places. Oh, Jakob's dropped a long way down. So what's... Okay, so we've missed something. We're going to have to get a replay on that, but Norbert Jakob has dropped from... Oh, and it was a pit stop. My bad. Must have been a really quick pit stop that we completely missed. But yes, Jakob does come into the pits and get changed onto those hard tyres. So apologies to anyone that I may have slightly startled there by saying that something had happened. But all of a sudden, Norbert Jakob was down in 8th, 9th position, fighting for his place on pit exit. Here we see his pit exit, and you can see how he comes out right in between. Well, you can see that's...
yeah, one of the that'll be Omar Gorgi's just come there. So yeah, pretty clean stop there for Jakob, and that is the first of our front runners to come in as well. So let's see how he's going to be able to filter through the pack, see if anyone else comes in. Schluter has come in now, actually. So that's interesting that Schluter didn't get preference from the team to come in because he had the track position. He was in front of Norbert Jakob. So that is really, really interesting indeed. In comes Mark Schluter. Is Jakob going to get through him? No, looks like Schluter. Oh, they're going to be side by side down into turn 2, and it is going to be Jakob that gets the jump. So Mark Schluter may have a few words for Carter McColeman and the remainder of the Canadian team, because he's just lost out in the pit lane because they gave preference to Jakob in the pit lane. Jakob up to P6. Schluter's going to try and follow him through. Now it's a case of, boys, don't fight each other too hard, because we are in the net lead of this race as it currently stands, and we don't want to be taking either of us out. But that is a very, very interesting dynamic. And let's see if it gets a little bit feisty, or if this is all going according to plan, potentially. Dylan Fisher, who we just saw, I must admit, a fantastic NASCAR-style killing of Philip Pushka a few laps ago out of the Mercedes arena. Just the lightest of kisses. It's the age-old art of stock car racing, of wrecking somebody without making it look like you wrecking them. I'm sure if we got an onboard, we would see an ever so slight tilt of the steering wheel to the right-hand side. But yeah, that was it was good stuff, but he might get a penalty for it potentially. But now up to 14th place is the Lunark driver, the leading Lunark car, of course, because issues for Yannick Bock in the early portion of this race. Murnau and Fournier now in, so Sergio Fletcher takes the lead. He is on an alternate strategy from the one of our front runners. He is on the medium compound tyre, so you would be expecting it is Norbert Jakob who's very much in the lead of this race. On the subject of tyres, actually, because we haven't up, it is the middle compound of use for us here today. The C4s for the softs, the C3s for the mediums, and the C2s for the hards. As there we see more squabbling for position. Lucas Murno makes his way through Omar Gorgi, and it's hards for the True North guys as well. So they're going long, Caitlin, in this second stint.
They are, and I'm surprised to see that Mano and Fournier are both stuck on the soft tyres, as that's a big lunge from Tyan with the tyres all locked up, and he forces McGorgy over the curb on the exit of the corner. I said that THR and McGorgy had a bit of a rivalry going on, but Tyan barges his way through nearly on the inside of the Mercedes arena and gets through into that 9th position. But yeah, I wonder if it just hasn't updated for Mano and Fournier, or if they have indeed stuck on the soft tyres, because that would also indicate a 3-stop strategy there. They have also lost time. Both of them have lost time to the True North racing cars, and that is going to be exacerbated now as they have to come through some of the slower traffic that's yet to stop. So I think the undercut proving a bit more effective than we might have expected today, and that of course proven by Norbert Jakob getting through on Mark Schluter. You wonder if there's any, not papaya rules, but I don't know, maple rules or something between the two True North racing cars, where one driver gets preference over the other depending on qualifying position or anything like that. But of course Schluter was the car that was ahead, and by pitting first, Jakob was able to get the move done. So what will happen between those two for the rest of the race? Will Schluter get preferential treatment for the second pit window, you wonder? Because even though they're on hard tyres, it would beg a belief that they would go to the end 48 laps from when they stopped on just one set of tyres. So I do think they're going to stop again before the end of the race, and now it's going to be up to which of the two drivers gets preference on that occasion and what happens in the meantime with 20 laps completed out of the 67, Ross.
I mean, I don't think they'll let them fight either, because you're looking at a first Super League win for True North, and potentially a 1-2 as well. I mean, we have seen that from teams this year in terms of taking first victories in a 1-2 and the likes of that. So HRT, of course, a 1-2 back at Canada. That was their first 1-2. Of course, not the first win for HRT as a team, but still, it was a mighty result for them. So, I mean, I do know that it is Juho Soppinen who is the engineer for True North tonight. So maybe I'll shoot Juho a message, see if I can decipher what's going on off of the pit wall, and see if we can get some information. There is Oscar Soltero. He's re-emerged just in front of the FTR of Daniel Scott. So he's up to 13th place now. They're tied up to 7th after that ding-dong that we saw with Gorgie. Gorgie has also boxed, we saw him a moment ago. Emerged in P20, already up to 19th. After some more pit stops. Still under the 3 retirements in this race. In Macho Winnick, Jose Soriano and Alexandra Maggio. Of course, we saw Soriano getting involved with that incident with Loic Mounier earlier on. A real shame for the 2025 Superlights champion, who was looking mightily impressive and was definitely on for, I think, what would have been his best result of 2026. And indeed, his Super League career so far this evening. So a real shame there for the Spaniard. Loic Mounier, though, is up to 16th place, and there are still people in front of him yet to box, although, of course, he did have to box early or a new front wing. So his strategy's all over the place. There could be post-race penalties coming his way as well. So we'll wait and see what the stewards and the disciplinary committee have in store for the reigning world champ. But yes, that going back to that incident, Caitlin, a really rare error, a complete misjudgment of the situation from Loic Mounier, and I think he saw the flashing lights, and whether it was a case of, oh, I can go for this, let's see if it happens, or, oh, actually, I'm not going to make the corner because I've braked too late, and we've just got to send it and hope that Murno sees me and dives out of the way, which he did not do. So, yeah, it was a very bizarre incident. There goes Tom Stevens, past Stefan Roll. Of course, the 2021 champion standing in for Carlos Martin this evening, and into the points. Goes the THR driver with a lovely textbook manoeuvre up the inside of the head.
Yeah, we're about a third of the race in now. If you missed the start of it, the updates are that, as you just explained for us, the second place driver in the championship, Carlos Martin, is not present today, and he's being replaced by Stefan Roll in the HRT. Stefan Roll, former champion, and every time, he's one of those drivers that keeps dropping in and out of Super League, doesn't he? And every time he pokes his nose back in again, I have to remind you guys of that thrilling race that was the 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix, one of the best that I've ever seen in my life. And of course, you were alongside me that day, Ross. And have you ever heard me nearly hyperventilate like that in a Grand Prix before or since? It was quite something indeed. Some more updates on this particular race. Unfortunately, as you said, 3 DNFs so far, and they've all been some quite high-profile ones. There was an incident involving Lucas Murno and Loic Meunier, which involved Meunier spinning his car around and slamming in to the poor Jose Soriano, who is out of this race. Maciej Winnick is also out of this race as a result of an incident with Yannick Bock on the first lap of the race. We didn't actually see what properly occurred on that occasion. We caught it a little bit too late on the replay. But yeah, some kind of incident, presumably involving those two drivers, taking Maciej Winnick out of this race and dropping Yannick Bock right the way down the order. And Alessandro Maggio, who says his internet tried to connect with a satellite that was blocked. Isn't that the most Alessandro Maggio kind of luck that you've ever heard in your life? And it's one of the unique problems that we have in sim racing, and one of the unique problems that seems to especially befall Alessandro Maggio when he's in a potential race-winning position. So unfortunately, 3 DNFs as we speak. Sergio Fletcher has the lead of the race but is yet to make a pit stop. Xavi Ross is second but is yet to make a pit stop. The team to beat today is True North Motorsports with Norbert Jakob versus Mark Schluter. They're going for their first victory as a team in GPVWC Super League, and if Norbert Jakob was to win it, that would be his first race victory as a driver in Super League as well. Schluter hasn't won since the 2024 season. Their main challengers, Lucas Murno and Jeffrey Fournier, are behind them, but we believe that they went onto soft tyres again, indicating a potential 3-stop strategy. Can they catch them before the second pit window? That's another question that we have to look out for, but Murno is making inroads. Those are all of the updates at the 1/3 point in the race, but still plenty of racing to go, Ross, and we've got at least 1 pit stop left for pretty much, well, I would say definitely every driver on the grid.
Yes, certainly at least 1. You'd expect 2, quite frankly, for some of them. So we'll wait and see what the pit lane has in store for us over the remainder of this race. Murno running really, really subtly, it must be said, the Brazilian, and as it currently stands, is set for his first Super League podium. Of course, bursting onto the Superlight scene last year and taking race wins basically immediately was the Brazilian, as that is Jakob working his way through Xavi Ross and up into second place. His teammate of Mark Schluter will follow him through, but doesn't do anything silly and try and send it straight up the inside of his teammate. Again, we do know just how well True North, both cars always work together as a team. It's a real team philosophy when they're out there, and we've seen it before. Suzuka earlier in the year, we saw it all across Superlights last season as well. Of course, they're a new team up in Super League for 2026. Oh, you saw the cars both working together. Chris Shepherd getting very, very close there with Szymon Frelich. What's going on with the Red Archer car? He's going to have to go the long way around of the Polish driver at the Mercedes arena, and does have the soft tyre. Will be able to use it and keep it to the inside. This could be a special move because they're still side by side on the run into Mobile 1, which is not a corner you really want to go side by side into, and still there or thereabouts. Finally, Frelich finally has to yield, but now he's got the THR and Tom Stevens for company, and they're still bouncing off each other. And Tom Stevens is going to go, thank you very much, and slide on through. Then here comes Stefan Rolt. Szymon Frelich has lost 3 places in half a lap through no real fault of his own, just getting shoved out a little bit too wide and costing him all of the momentum. Through goes Shepherd, through goes Stevens, through goes Rolt, and now Loic Meunier's potentially on the attack of the TOP.
Oh, and Frelich loses out there. He lets Loic Meunier go through as well. I don't know if that was a mistake or not. Someone pointed out earlier, it's almost uncanny. Every time anything happens at the Mercedes arena, it involves Szymon Frelich. It ends up with Szymon Frelich getting a touch somewhere. So that happened again just then. It was a case of Chris Shepherd pulling an amazing move under, over, around the outside. And then unfortunately Shepherd made a mistake almost in his excitement to make the move up, and that led to a bit of a concertina effect, which involved other drivers coming back through, and then Frelich got a little bit of a touch in the side and ended up dropping back again. So Frelich down into 16th place now. He's been passed by Jarl Tyen. There's Tom Stevens in 11th position, and Chris Shepherd just behind him. And here we're going to see a replay. So this is Frelich, so he's going to get passed by Shepherd here. And this, I have to give credit where credit's due, is a phenomenal move from Chris Shepherd. Round the outside, Frelick has to shallow off the exit of the corner, and then he finds the Red Archer car still on his right-hand side. Then Shepherd gets it's almost like a boost of acceleration going up towards the Mobile 1 curve. He's still on the inside, forces Frelick out into the curve. But what's Shepherd here? He runs it wide. He runs it wide and makes a mistake, and then comes back into the side of Shimon Frelick, right as Frelick has nowhere to go because he gets touched by Tom Stevens. Stevens then comes through, and you can see Stefan Rohr appearing out of nowhere like a torpedo and getting the move done. And Frelick's dropping down the order again. So has he made a pit stop? He was on relatively old tyres, so I think that may have been the reason for that. But yeah, Frelick just lost even more places, and I think he's been into the pits.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Shimon has just come in for a set of the medium tyres. And I think he was yet to box. He did start on the hard compound. I think that's possibly why he was losing so much time as well, just because the tyres were absolutely shot out there for him. So we'll just see if I can confirm that for you. If the live timing wants to be my friend, if you stand by, has emerged into 22nd place. Yes, does look like that he was just on the hards basically the whole way through, and now has gone onto a set of the mediums, which is probably why he was quite keen at letting Loic Mounier through as well, because he knew he's going to be coming in as James Knox gets a little touch and goes for a spin down at the hairpin. Does get it going again in the FTR car, and it should be okay. I don't think there'll be any damage. Let's get a replay of what happened. Who was that he had that coming together with?
So Knox was trying to defend from one car. He was trying to defend from Vandervoort, and then just kind of misjudged his braking and went into the back of Corrala. So I think while trying to defend one position, he didn't actually intend to go for a move on Corrala. He just kind of found him in his way when he got to the corner. I was going to bring that up earlier actually, because we've seen sometimes where, and that's Jarl Tyre now fighting back against Stefan Rohr and ducking to the inside, and in the background, absolutely out of nowhere, comes Loic Mounier and runs it wide into the corner where he had his incident earlier, and he has to give the place back to Chris Shepherd because he knew that he pulled it illegally. So Loic does give the place back to Chris Shepherd as a result of that one, but that's another mistake today from, I think Loic's possibly just seeing the red mist at this point. But no, what I was going to say about that particular incident that we saw before was every time I've seen the True North cars passing someone up through the Parabolica and towards the hairpin, Norbert Jakob has to be really careful that in passing the back marker he doesn't go into the back of his teammate Schluter. I've seen it nearly happen a couple of times, but he's just about been in control of his car when it's happened. And now we've got Xavi Ross undercutting Fournier. They're going to lock wheels on the exit. Luckily they were able to steer out of it. Fournier keeps that 5th position for now, and Ross has made his pit stop, hasn't he? So this is for position now for 5th place between Fournier, the well-qualifying Geoffrey Fournier, and Xavi Ross, who comes off the back of a podium at the last Grand Prix. And these two, and once again you see the Rohr and Tyen battle picking up. And as we head towards the Mercedes arena, this is where Rohr this is where Tyen made the switchback maneuver on him a lap ago. And Rohr this time unable to do the same, gets a better run out of the corner, but Tyen is there. And here's Owen McGorgy now side by side with Dylan Fisher and sweeping through with the inside into the arena.
Yep, nice move there from Owen McGorgy. Oh, not quite done yet actually, almost contact between himself and Fisher, and again Fisher not afraid to get the gloves off here at the Hockenheim ring, it would seem, as they're side by side into Mobile 1. McGorgy with a huge tank slapper. What a save from the Englishman as he lets his countryman through. That was superb, full opposite lock. And I mean, it's for 16th place, but that was possibly one of the saves of the season we've just seen from Owen McGorgy, as he does drop behind Dylan Fisher. But wow, to the inside, lost the rear, presumably on a bump or a little bit of a dirtier part of the racetrack, and just caught it. I guess all that drifting in Forza Horizon 6 has been paying off, because that was some car control.
And also a really good move from Dylan Fisher. It was on the other side of the track, as in he was on the left, whereas Chris Shepherd, when he pulled his move, was on the right. So it was on the other side of the track to the one that Chris Shepherd pulled. But same sort of concept, go for the switchback, go around the outside of your opponent, and then hope you can make it stick on the next corner that bends in your favour. Watch this, Fisher just appearing around the outside, using all of the track that he can, and they're still side by side, no one wanting to lift. and McGorgy's car starts to break away mid-corner, and he just does enough to hold it. Really good driving from both of those drivers, and Fischer is up into 16th position. And a lap later,
oh, sorry, Caitlin, I was having some microphone issues on my end there for a second. Yes, lap later, McGorgy right there with him. Look at how hard McGorgy is pushing that TOP Esports car. I mean, it's all sorts of out of shape, which, again, you want the car to be moving around a little bit naturally on its own, but that is overdriving the car, if I've ever seen it. Again, maybe it's that he's desperate for that 16th place, but I'm thinking at this stage, lap 31 and 67, in these conditions, there's going to be a lot of guys getting very, very hot and frustrated, both in the rigs and under the virtual helmets as well. I wonder if McGorgy is one of those, as Eros Masciuli loses out a place there to Jan Grankvist, the Finnish driver. The 2024 world champion has now worked his way up into 14th place, so a nice move from him. And Eros, to be fair, he's having a pretty solid race. He's been running consistently at the back end of the points, been in some incidents here or there, but overall, leading the Adonis charge, it's been going all okay so far. For I say leading the Adonis charge, his teammates up in 6th place, but he's doing a good job regardless, I think.
There's a yellow flag. I noticed that Fischer's swapping up and down the order. I think something happened to Dylan Fischer there. And it's in the Mercedes arena again, which has been the accident black spot of the day. He's still got his wings attached. But yeah, he gained a place, he lost a place, he gained a place again, then lost 2 places. And I thought, right, I know what the yellow flag is. So we'll have to see if we can pick up a replay of that. And we do now. So what's going to happen here to Dylan Fischer? So he's fighting with, that must be McGorgy on his tail. And it's a lag spike. It's a lag spike. So Fischer... Oh my goodness!
Oh!
So Fischer disconnected from the server and then reconnected, and in the moment that he reconnected, the game didn't quite know where to place him and placed him directly inside of McGorgy's car. So something quite dramatic happened there to Dylan Fischer through no fault of his or anyone's. And unfortunately that has ended up losing him time, and he's in the wall. So Dylan Fischer a few corners later, possibly as a result of damage from that incident and definitely damaged tyres, has had another off and has gone into the crash barriers. And that is the end of the day for Dylan Fischer in quite unfortunate circumstances. So big shame there for one of the more promising drivers, but one of the more unlucky drivers of the Super League grid. And he joins Alessandro Maggio, Jose Soriano and Maciej Winnick in what is an absolute roll call of GPWC's unluckiest drivers today, especially today. We're now halfway through the race. Sergio Fletcher still leads, ahead of Mark Schluter and Norbert Jakob. We're not quite sure what the net order is, because of course we've still got pit stops to play into all of this, and Sergio Fletcher definitely owes us a pit stop sooner rather than later. But one thing I was going to bring up on the subject of pit stops, as Chris Shepherd also makes a pit, is that the battle you just saw between Grankvist and Masciuli was not necessarily for position. Grankvist had just made a pit stop and was coming out of the pits when it happened, and that means that Grankvist, despite starting right from the back of the grid and despite having a relatively slow progress in the first 10 laps or so, has started to put the lap times in and has now got up into 13th position in what should be the net order as well. So I think Grankvist will be well inside the points when this all plays out, and he still has a good sniff at the top 10 positions. But yeah, halfway through the race now, and Ross, we just seen that accident for Dylan Fischer. A weird one with the disconnection, but a very unfortunate one at the end of the day, seeing our 4th DNF.
Yeah, a real shame, and Dylan wasn't having the worst day in the world, but you know, he'd been going okay. Nothing spectacular. A couple of incidents, but he was in the solid points-paying positions at the very least. So that's a real shame for him. His teammate now, the Salt Lunark, of course, in the form of 2-time world champion in Yannick Bock. So let's see if he can salvage something for the team after one of the more bizarre trying to disconnect and then meeting the barrier and somehow ending up inside McGorgy. Not in that way. Yeah, that was a bit of an interesting incident. I've got to say, hypothetical for you, just given his pace and how the race has developed, it's lap 34 of 67, are we in Jan Grankvist as a dark horse for the victory territory? We have seen last to first before in GPVWC Super League. We saw one last season, in fact. We know it's doable. If anyone's going to be able to do it outside of Jarl Time last season, it is going to be Jan Grankvist. And I tell you what, he's actually had a very, very clean race and is running with really solid pace. Now, yes, there is a big gap between Jeffrey Fournier and Thomas Vogt. As I say that, into the pits comes Fournier, as does Sergio Fletcher. But he could be on for a really, really solid result here. I think Jan could easily be looking at potentially a top 8, a top 7. But are there hushed whispers of a podium or a win yet, Caitlin?
In a word, no. I mean, like you were saying before, there have been last to first challenges completed in Super League in the past, and Granqvist himself very nearly pulled one off all the way back. Was it 2022 or 2023 in Japan, when he came all the way from the back of the grid, went for the lead on the final lap of the race against Tomasz Vogt. As you see, Tomasz Vogt now being overtaken by Sergio Fletcher, who's just come out of the pits there. That's for 4th position. But unfortunately, on that occasion, Granqvist ended up spinning and finishing in 4th place. That was another one of those races that I will never stop talking about, along with Brazil 2021, which I brought up already today. But yes, it's unlikely to happen today. I think he made too slow progress. His progress in the first part of the race was a little too slow, and he has started to really feel the effect of the hard tires. He's managed to run much later into the race and make up some positions as a result. As you can see, a little bit of a conflagration there. You got the 2 TOP esports cars coming right at each other on track, and Philip Pushke, I think the cork in the bottle in this one. And you see Magorki now going to the outside of Pushke. Pushke trying his best to navigate the corner where he was tipped into a spin earlier on, and gets away with it this time. But yeah, I think it's too little too late for Granqvist. Top 5 maybe. He's got to really get a move on, but top 5 maybe. Stevens into the pits now, also dropping outside of the top 10, so that's another position gain for both Loic Meunier and Jan Granqvist. Granqvist is the car directly behind Meunier on track, and I do mean directly behind. He's less than half a second in arrears at this point in time. Fletcher's pit stop means that Schluter and Jakob are back into 1st and 2nd in the race. Lucas Murno also just made a pit stop, which was going to be the next thing that I was going to bring up, because I expected that any lap, and it has now happened. Realistically, I think the net order is Schluter, Jakob, Fletcher. Oh, and a little bit of a banging of wheels there between Granqvist and Meunier. This is Granqvist trying to demote the championship leader and gain that place. He's on the medium tyres as opposed to Meunier's hards. Oh, and a twitch on the exit as well. They rub wheels a good 4 or 5 times in that, but they get away with it, and Jan Granqvist has got up into 11th position in the race, and that's the kind of racer that Granqvist is. Even if there's contact and it doesn't quite go his way first, he keeps at it. McCorkey there with another big twitch. He's driving his car more with the tail than he is with the front, and he has been throughout the whole thing. He's managed to swap places with his teammate, but gives it back now to Shimon Frelick. Oh, and off in the background goes Daniel Scott, and Daniel Scott seems to have made it all the way to the barriers. That's where Mika Hakkinen crashed in 99, I think, and he reverses it. Not quite sure what the reverse gear was for there, but rejoins the road, and that was a strange one because he just seemed to go straight. But anyway, Daniel Scott does rejoin the road, and we're going to see a replay of that now from on board with Daniel Scott.
Oh, he just snapped it over it.
I think he was distracted by what was going on with the TOPs. He wanted to leave space in case Magorki was going to drop back further than he did. Why does he engage reverse gear there? That's a bizarre one. But anyway, does eventually manage to get back onto the track and continues on in the race. And for Daniel Scott, who is yet to finish a race in Super League, it's important that he keeps going whatever the cost.
Yeah, it is indeed. And again, just getting caught out a bit by what was going on in front of him onto the dirty side of the track, and in the front end biting as well. So luckily it wasn't a massive impact into the barrier. Magorki, on the meantime, is trying to put some pressure into the Red Archer VRT of Chris Shepherd. So we're now right in the mix of pit stops and things once again. Jarl Tynes actually just come in on that note. Magorki doing a bit of not quite grass cutting, but certainly trimming the AstroTurf on the Exeter Mobil 1 there. Again, Magorki is pushing like there's no tomorrow. Like this is the last time he's ever going to be driving a GPVWC Super League car, and he's just driving like an absolute madman. There's a few drivers that have been, shall we say that their efforts this evening have been questionable. They've had a few moments. They've made mistakes you wouldn't normally expect them to do. They've been banging wheels with each other. Magorki is one just with how he's throwing the car around the Hockenheim ring. I gotta say, Loic Meunier has definitely been another one. He's been caught up in so many silly incidents, a lot of which have been his fault, quite frankly. So there are a few big names that are being caught out by the scale of the event and by the heat and the like. Yannick Bock with a nice and textbook overtake, but runs it very, very deep on the exit. McGorgy looking for the switchback. They may be side by side into the Mercedes arena as they almost rub wheel to wheel on the run in, but it looks like Bock will cover him off and take that 18th place on the soft compounded tyres for Lunak. So the two-time world champion moves up another position. He is the sole Lunak still in the running of this thing, of course, with his teammate who was in the points earlier on having issues. And Bock, a race winner this year, of course, back at Imola, continuing to hunt for a couple of points at the very least.
In a dreadful day for my my predictions for the win, hasn't it? I mean, Yannick Bock, let's not forget, he's doing well now, but he lost his front wing on the very first lap of the race. And before qualifying, I was saying that I thought Yannick Bock had a good chance today. He ended up qualifying 11th, so a little bit lower down than we may have expected. But he did well from that position at the Hungaroring last time out, ended up still finishing in second position and only just missing out on the win by 7/10 of a second. But unfortunately, with that first lap incident, that's really taken him out of contention. And then right before the start, I said I thought Alessandro Maggio would get it. And that was rather foolish of me, I guess. I was on board the hype train, but maybe not the hype Starlink. Chris Shepherd there, 17th position, losing out to Philip Pushke, nearly running into the back of them through the hairpin. And you can see now Norbert Jakob has come into the pits. So that's interesting because Jakob pitted first on the first pit cycle, and I was wondering if they were going to do something slightly different with Mark Schluter pitting first to try to get him back through into the lead. But Jakob once again gets in first and has the advantage of the fresher tyres. He has the disadvantage of Xavi Ross all over the back of them. So Ross lining him up now up into the hairpin, and this could really put a spanner in the works. Xavi Ross does get through now into fourth position. Oh, contact! My goodness! Fournier ran straight into the back of him there. And you can see Jakob voicing his displeasure as much as a car can voice anything. And somehow is still in the race with his rear wing attached and didn't end up getting tipped into a spin. I think he probably did get tipped into a spin, but luckily the hairpin is 180 degrees anyway, so it ended up looking like a normal corner. But Norbert Jakob there, not impressed at all with Geoffrey Fournier, and that has cost him a few opportunities later in the lap to get back at Xavi Ross. So now Mark Schluter has a better opportunity. He's actually stayed out a lap longer than he did in the first stint. So we wait and see when Schluter pits and what that's going to mean for the race. Now, when you were saying that you thought Granqvist might be a dark horse for the win, or you were at least asking the question, I was going to say that Sergio Fletcher is the real dark horse for this victory at this point in time. Because obviously he's putting in the fastest laps of the race as we are looking at them, and gaining on the top two. And I was going to say that if the strategy fell his way, then he may end up being able to take advantage of this. That is going to help his cause, because Jakob is definitely going to lose out in this pit window as a result of that. As we now look at Owen McGorgy exiting the pit lane. The slightly leery McGorgy, as we've seen his car be, and he's out of the race. So McGorgy pulls off, and I very much hope, because that's immediately after a pit stop, so I very much hope that that is not the same incident that he had last time out in the Hungaroring. Just a quick refresh of that, he had some kind of problem with his sim that meant he couldn't change tyres, and as a result there was no point in him continuing in the race because his tyres were going to get worse and worse. And of course, even if he had managed to change tyres, even if he had managed to finish the race, he would have been disqualified for not changing tyre compounds. And potentially the same things happened to Owen McGorgy, either that or he's called it a day to save the engine because he was well down the order anyway. So 5 DNFs from the race now, 23 cars remaining. And we're looking at the leader, Mark Schluter, who is not far from lapping Tom van der Voort. And Thomas Vogt now makes a pit stop and will drop to about 11th position.
Yeah, it's all a bit of just calm amongst the storm that we've been having so far in this race. I think everyone's just taking it nice and chill as we start to approach the final couple of pit stops, or you'd expect that to be the case anyway. Lap 42 of 67 here. Schluter still out. I did ask the True North engineer this evening, Juho Sopinen, what the plan was in terms of getting the drivers back in to the pit box, whether Mark was going to get preferential treatment, or if one of them was confident on the tyres was going to stay out. And he said, we'll find out when we get there. So clearly True North running a Vibes FC pit strategy this evening, but it's working for them because they have been dominating this race so far, be that with Jakob or Schluter, the pair of them. The Helm at the lead as it currently stands. The German, the pole sitter at his home Grand Prix, still yet to box. His teammate emerged in P6. Of course, we saw that contact. We saw the frustrating wiggle there to both express anger, but also just to check that the car's still working as well. And it seems like it's okay, but he is now stuck behind Geoffrey Fournier. So you are thinking, is there a little bit of damage to the rear of that car? Is it holding him up down the straights potentially? And wait and see. Here's Philip Pushka, another driver who's been in the walls a little bit this evening, to put it politely. And there is Jakob. And yeah, it doesn't... Maybe it's just hurting him in a straight line a little bit. That's a big dive there from Geoffrey Fournier, using that battery, using that DRS, and getting up into 4th place through Xavi Ross. So the HRT drops down to 5th. Geoffrey Fournier having the race of his season so far here at the Hockenheim ring, and is potentially sniffing at a podium if the pit cycles all work out and the strategies all work out in his favour. So Fournier with a golden opportunity for Red Archer Virtual Racing Team.
Now, we didn't see when Fournier got past Jakob, but it was while we were watching the replay of McGorgy retiring. Fournier, after hitting the back of Jakob, ended up going through. He is on soft tyres, which may explain why he was so desperate to get through Norbert Jakob. But remember, Jakob is freshly out of the pits on brand new rubber. This is going to be hurting his challenge. And realistically, he should have at least got back at Xavi Ross by now. So does Jakob... I'd be surprised if he had any severe damage from that touch, because it wasn't... It was an awkward one, but it wasn't a particularly heavy one. We're going to see a replay now. This is Fournier on the back of Jakob, and this will be when he goes for the move. He gets to the inside and goes through and up that position. And this is the last thing that Norbert Jakob needed after making that pit stop. I think he's come out into traffic in about the worst way he could have done. And Schluter is wise to have stayed out longer than he would otherwise have done, because by staying out longer, he's avoiding the worst of this. He's avoiding being dropped back into the same traffic. And I think this is probably the best kind of strategy that Schluter could be on right now. Schluter and Fletcher still have a very good chance of winning this race. Jakob does as well, but it really depends on what these two drivers do and when they decide to make their final pit stop. Don't discount, of course, Geoffrey Fournier and Xavi Ross. They've shown that they have pace, and there are definitely sequences of events out there that could end up with them winning the race. I think that's a little more unlikely. But here's Sergio Fletcher, the fastest driver on track as we speak, continuing on, and he's got a little bit of lap traffic to get through, but to be honest, it might help him more than hinder him, because he'll get plenty of slipstream and even some DRS down the straight.
He will indeed. Of course, don't throw out Lucas Murno as well. He's also likely to be up there. No move yet for Murno on Fletcher. A little bit too far back on the run down into the hairpin on that occasion. Oh, no, that wasn't Lucas Murno. That was some lap traffic, should I say. There is Lucas Murno. He's 6 and a bit seconds behind Sergio Fletcher. And just a note on Omar Gorgi. He's simply put into the Super League chat on the Discord, too hot, responding to Eric Brenner asking why he DNF'd. So that is why McGorgy clearly decided, you know what, it's not worth it in this heat. The humidity we've got here in Europe, once again, heat waves left, right and centre across the continent, and clearly starting to have a physical effect now on the drivers, because it's tough work, sim racing. Of course, it's not quite as tough as driving a real racing car, but it is physical, especially if you've got your force feedback set up high, and the mental strain of staring at a screen or 3 screens sometimes if you're rich for hours on end. It's not good for you, and it does take it out of you. Yannick Bock up the inside of Shimon Frelich there, the sole TOP done by the sole Lunark in this race, and it's a nice move from Yannick Bock to get up into 16th. But yes, looks like McGorgy is the first of our retirements that we know about to be due to fatigue, to be due to the conditions and just not being able to handle them. So you do have to sympathise with him on that one, just given how brutally warm it is. If you've not got a fan pointed at you, even if you do have a fan pointed at you, it's going to be tough behind the wheel of these virtual racing cars. So a real shame for Omar Gorgi. He wasn't having a great day of it anyway, which also probably would have factored into that decision, I can imagine. TOP have just been struggling a lot over the last couple of races, but still, that is the first driver that we know of in a long old time, quite frankly, not just in this race. They've decided to call it a day due to the conditions and how physically hot it is. It is making them impossible to race.
Danilo Vaz asks whether too hot could mean for the engine temp instead. That's entirely possible, especially since he was just coming out of the pit lane. And of course, when you're stopped in the pits, the engine does take over slightly, and it does end up leading to the engine overheating somewhat.
Yeah, but it sounds more dramatic when you talk about, the trials and tribulations of the drivers.
That's true. So. And we didn't see smoke or fire or anything like that. So, Mark Schluter has been into the pits. Now, this is the moment of truth. Where does he come out in relation to his teammate? Norbert Jakob lost time, but he still goes through. So Jakob still goes back through to the lead of the race. And Schluter, well, despite all of that, despite us talking up the fact that he might still jump back to the lead of the race, his in-laps weren't quite strong enough for that to be the case. And Jakob has ended up going back through. So the gap hasn't really changed much. It's about what it was before, at least before Jakob's pit stop. And of course, Schluter does have fresher tyres, but he's still behind his teammate Norbert Jakob. So the question now becomes, they're definitely going to the end of the race on these tyres. That definitely appears to be the plan anyway. So do they finish as they are, and, tough luck, he should have pitted first? Or does Jakob, if they find themselves running 1-2 in the latter part of the race, does Jakob give it back to Schluter, going, you did all the hard work by getting through at the start, you take it, my friend?
Of course, it is a home Grand Prix for Mark Schluter as well, so you wonder if that's playing into things. But Jakob onto the hard, so he is on older hard tyres as well. Schluter's going medium for the last in, so it may well be a race, but be sensible, boys. I don't want to start whipping out papaya rules, but, just don't crash into each other, but go and have your fun. It may well be there could be a gentleman's agreement in place. Whoever was quicker in qualifying was at the front of the race goes through. Of course, it's Mark's home race, so maybe if there's a case where you are 1 and 2, you let Mark through to win his home Grand Prix. But it's also, this would be Norbert Jakob's first Super League Grand Prix victory. So what happens, we'll wait and see. But one of the True North cars, pending a disaster, is very, very likely going to be winning this race. Jakob has just made his way through the Adonis of Xavi Ross as well, so the Spaniard down to 5th now. And there is a buffer between Jakob and his teammate. And again, it doesn't look like Jakob's trying to bolt away. Schluter similarly also seemingly not pushing those mediums too hard early doors on that tyre, on that compound. Maybe just happy just to run them in for a couple of laps, see how the wear is going to be before he really starts to push on. So Fletcher will need to box again. Murno, you'd expect, will need to box again. Fournier will need to box again as well. So it is Jakob that is in the net race lead. And once again, True North are looking like they're set to take a 1-2. It's just a question now, really, is who is 1 and who is 2?
Yeah, Danilo Vaz again in the YouTube chat was saying he likes Lucas Murno's chances in this race. I will say he pitted on lap 36, so that's about the halfway distance, just past the halfway distance in the race, and he's on medium tyres. I think that's too far to go on that particular tyre compound, and even if he did, he's going to start dropping off in relation to Jakob and Schluter. You can see Jakob is already about 4 seconds behind him on the road. They do have Fournier in between them, but yeah, I think it's going to be a bit too much for him to overcome. Schluter now gets past Ross as well, so up into 5th position, and he's now right on the tail of his teammate Norbert Jakob as they attempt to close up to the cars in front of them. I'm going to try to find out when Fournier and Fletcher's last pit stops were in the race, because I think Fletcher is the biggest threat to the True North cars at this point in time. He also stopped on lap 36. No, that's still, I think my race view is giving me the wrong information there. I think it's telling me the same thing. He pitted on lap 45, so that's 22 laps from the end on soft tyres. God, I don't think a one-stop strategy is going to work out there for Sergio Fletcher. I'm not even sure that's what he's thinking about, but we'll see. And Jeffrey Fournier has been on those tyres since lap 35, so he's going to make a pit stop soon, regardless. The fastest driver on track, by the way, is Mark Schluter. He set his personal best last time around, and so it's not quite the fastest lap of the race so far, but it is the fastest of all of the drivers on the last lap. And the fastest lap of the race, all in all, is still held by Sergio Fletcher, the race leader, but it was a little while ago. And there's the swap. Mark Schluter does go through on Norbert Jakob. We were wondering if that was going to happen. I'm surprised it happened this soon, but Schluter's got the pace and he's got the fresher tyres, and he's going to have his chance now at getting past, and he's on medium tyres. That'll be why. So they've split the strategy here. Jakob has gone for another set of hards, I believe. Schluter is on the medium tyres and goes through on Norbert Jakob, and he now sets off after Geoffrey Fournier, who will be a little bit slower on those older tyres and should be able to dispose of him relatively quickly here, Ross.
Yeah, you'd think that'd be the case, wouldn't you? And Jakob putting up no resistance there to his teammates. So that's either he's on mediums, let him through to go and get to these guys up in front if they're not going to box, as Fournier comes in, as does Fletcher now. So it is just Lucas Murno now in front of them, who we are expecting to box as well, just behind them. Javi Ross also coming into the pit lane. So, yeah, maybe that was a case of, look, Mark's faster, just on the off chance somebody stays out, let him through, please. Or maybe Jakob was thinking, look, I'd be much more comfortable following Mark, potentially. There's so many different hypotheticals that it could be. But one thing that's certain is that Norbert did not really defend that, whether it was Schluter just getting a good run or Norbert maybe lifted off the throttle a little bit on the way down into the hairpin. They now have, let's call it a 7.5, an 8-second advantage over Sergio Fletcher behind. It is 3 seconds to Lucas Murno, and they've got 16 laps to go and get him. It is looking very, very good right now for True North Motorsport. Of course, one of our new teams here in Super League in 2026, their first ever Super League season after battling their way up the GPVWC career ladder. And here at round 11 of 16 at the Hockenheim Ring in Baden-Württemberg in Germany, they are looking like it is set to be not just a first race victory for the team, a first victory in Super League since 2024 for Mark Schluter, but it's set to be a 1-2 as well.
Look who's in 5th place. We were just watching Jan Grankvist there. Unfortunately, RaceView is not giving me... Oh, well, I was going to say it wasn't giving me up-to-date information as to when his last pit stop was, but it doesn't matter because now we know his last pit stop is right now. So Grankvist coming into the pits as we speak. We also saw... Who just pitted along... so Murno also pitted along with Grankvist. Murno is in 4th position. Up in front, we have a very interesting dynamic because the first 3 drivers are all on different strategies. Schluter is on the medium tyres, Jakob is on the hard, Fletcher is on the softs. And with 15 laps to go, Fletcher has a chance if he can gain 7.5 seconds on Mark Schluter in those 15 laps. Any one of those 3 drivers could win this race, depending on how these laps go. I think Murno is too far back now. His best chance is to stick with them and see if he can snag a podium. But even so, this would be his best result in GPWC Super League. So he could still be very proud of that one. And you can see the tyres that everyone's on. Interestingly, the soft tyres much more popular than I thought they would be. Drivers going onto softs in the later stages of this race, knowing that there's not much time to the end and thinking, why not use the freshest, the softest rubber to put those hot laps in? I'm going to keep a very close eye on the timing screen because that's where this battle will be fought now from here until the end of the race. And Fletcher sets the fastest lap of anyone, a 1:14.206. That beats his own record, and Xavi Ross now sets the fastest lap of anyone. He's still going for a top 5, Ross.
Tell you what, Caitlin, this could be game on. I mean, it's now 6 seconds between Fletcher and Jakob. So maybe now True North are going, oh, hang on, we might need Norbert Jakob to be the rear gunner, to do absolutely everything to keep the Spaniard in the Italian car behind if we're going to take a race win, because suddenly that Valley Esports car's got a lot of pace. It's got a right lick of pace. Whoa! Philip Pushka has just been punted into the wall and out of the race, halfway down the straight coming into the hairpin. Who was that came together with him? Was that... It was Chris Shepherd. Was that a lag spike, or was that just 2 cars suddenly converging into one place? Let's have a look here. Shepherd pulls to the inside. Oh! And Pushka just turns into him.
I'd like to see that from on board with Pushka, but yeah, I'm afraid I've already used the joke about Pushka getting pushed once today, so I can't really use it again. But it appears on this occasion that Shepherd was holding his line, and maybe Pushka just comes over Oh, but on that, it's interesting. Whichever onboard you look at it from, it looks as if the other person was to blame. So I reckon that one's got to go down as a racing incident there. Just two lines converging, a wheel bouncing across the road. You never like to see that. Even in sim racing, that can do some damage. But unfortunately, that means that Philip Pushke is our latest retirement from the race. And we have 22 of our 28 drivers still running, Ross.
We do indeed. And again, a huge hit into the wall there for Pushka as well. Now 4.2 separating Jakob and Fletcher. Jakob is dropping back from Schluter to Raytonot, so Schluter is now on full push mode. He wants to open up the biggest gap possible between himself and Sergio Fletcher. True North are clearly worried about the pace of that Valet Esports car. They know that Fletcher is coming towards the end of this race. So Schluter's been told, go for it now, mate. Deal with the tyre wear later. Just get that gap up. And then Jakob being told, presumably, that let's call it 5 to 8 laps time, you are going to be on maximum defensive duties, my son, and you have got to do everything to keep that Italian motor vehicle behind you. So the scene is set. The things are not quite in play, but we're on our way there to it now. It's only a matter of time before Fletcher catches up to the back of Norbert Jakob.
So it's Jakob now on defensive duty from Sergio Fletcher. He has all to play for now to maintain that 1-2 for True North Motorsport. It was quite a feat earlier this year when True North managed to get 2 cars onto the podium for the first time in Super League. This is still their first season in Super League. It's been a bit of a fairy tale story for them. They're 4th in the championship. In Saudi Arabia, they were 3rd and 4th. In Malaysia, they were 2nd and 3rd. They've had a 4th and a 5th. They've had a 5th and a 6th. They've had a 6th and an 8th. The only thing that never seems to change with the 2 True North Motorsport cars is that they're never too far apart. They have been a little inconsistent at times. There are a couple of incidents that have been caused by True North Motorsport drivers over the course of this season so far. Mark Schluter caused a couple of incidents in Belgium. He's also run out of fuel on a couple of occasions, and unfortunately Norbert Jakob has had to miss a couple of rounds, which has definitely cost him in the championship standings. But I'm sure the team can forget all about that tonight if they can bring home this 1st and 2nd place for a very first 1-2 in this team's history. And a 1-2 in GPVWC Super League is a very rare feat. Teams are teams, they do work together, but it's not often that they're actually able to bring it home for both cars. Sometimes one has to sacrifice itself for the other. Sometimes they don't have the best of days. The only time we've seen a 1-2 this season in any Super League race, I haven't checked the other categories just yet, but the only time we've seen a 1-2 in a Super League race was when Holland Racing took 1st and 2nd at the Canadian Grand Prix, with Mathieu Winnick leading that one. But even that was a rare example, and that's from the championship leaders. Jan Grankvist now fighting back on Oscar Soltero, on Thomas Vock, my bad. Soltero's a few seconds down the road, but Grankvist does go through into 7th position. So from the back of the grid, he's up into the top 10 and well into the top 10. Loic Mounier is also back into the top 10 now after his incident earlier on. He's in 10th position and gaining on his teammate Soltero, who I don't expect will make it particularly difficult for him. Now in the race for the lead, I've been watching the lap times and I have a very exciting announcement to make. Sergio Fletcher has set a sub 1 minute 14 lap, which has since been beaten, I've just seen, been beaten by Lucas Murno. So they're both in the 1:13.9s, both of them really flying in these late stages. Of course, it's easier to set fast laps now than it was at the start because of the lower fuel load. Grankvist has now set a sub 1:14 as well, so there's 3 drivers in the 1:13.9s. But Fletcher is, my goodness, his last lap time was nearly a second faster than Jakob's. This is all about, Jakob can't even do anything to pull away at this point. All he's got to do now is conserve his tyres so that he has anything to fend Fletcher off with, because he has no hope of pulling away. We're on board with Fletcher now. Jakob, does he even have a chance of fending off this flying Fletcher in the late stages of the race, or is it just about costing him as much time as he can to keep Fletcher away from Schluter? Only these last 10 laps will tell, Ross.
Well, there will be ways to try to keep them behind. We're looking at battery dumps on the run down into the hairpin and things like that, but just the grip and the traction that Sergio Fletcher is getting out of the corner on those fresh softs compared to, I wouldn't say old hards, but older hards certainly. Fletcher's coming, look at it, here we go. Jakob super defensive to the inside. Fletcher will have to go the long way around, but it doesn't even matter. He's got it done before the braking zone. Jakob blocking up both fronts, nearly runs into the back of him as well. So that's one true north down and out in terms of the fight for the race lead. It is 4.5 seconds to Mark Schluter, who's on the mediums and has been running quicker than Norbert Jakob in this race in general. Certainly in this last stint, we saw how easy that was for Sergio Fletcher to get to Norbert Jakob. Mark Schluter, I think it might be a little bit more difficult, especially as those softs start to fall away. But right now, it's anyone's guess who's going to win this race.
Fletcher got past Jakob without losing much time at all. He may have even gained time as a result of the slipstream there. He was very lucky though that Jakob didn't run right into the back of him. Has something happened to Xavi Ross? I hope not. This is actually he's just pulled a move, hasn't he, on Geoffrey Fournier, and he does. So Ross gets past Fournier in a straight line. Goodness me, you can tell that I've been traumatized by former events in Super League. When you cut to a replay on my first thought is he's had an off, but no, Ross does go through into 5th position, passes Geoffrey Fournier, and a very strong sequence of results from Xavi Ross now ever since his win at Silverstone. But yeah, back to Fletcher, who was so lucky that Jakob didn't run into the back of him. Jakob locking up both wheels, and can you imagine the fallout if that had happened? I can already picture the whisperings of what might have been. But we're very lucky. You can even see the tyre marks still on the track there from where Jakob locked up those brakes. But yeah, we're very lucky that didn't end up happening, and the race for the lead is still on. So now the question is, what can Fletcher do about Mark Schluter? What can Schluter do about Sergio Fletcher? We have just 7 laps to go after this lap that's about to be, well, 8 laps to go, because lap 60 counts, of course. But yes, 8 laps to go to decide this one as Mark Schluter completes the lap. I'm going to check the lap times really quickly. It was a 1:14.7. Fletcher can absolutely beat that. Fletcher crosses the line, 1:14.2. He's half a second up on Mark Schluter, half a second per lap, and he's 4.5 seconds back. So that's not enough, is it? Because that would mean he would need 9. Yeah, he'd need 9 laps, and he's got 8 laps. That's not enough. Schluter can still do this one. He just has to stay consistent in those lap times and hope that Fletcher doesn't have anything more in the bank. Hope that Fletcher's tyres drop off before the end, but he may not even need that at this point in time. Xavi Ross, by the way, set the fastest lap of the race the previous time around. 1:13.3. I was talking about it being amazing when they got into the 1:13.9s. But Xavi Ross is gaining on Lucas Murno, and at that rate, there's nothing to say that he can't catch him. His last time appears to have been invalid, though, does Xavi Ross, so he may have had some kind of an off on that lap. And you have to be careful with that because one of Fletcher's penalties at the last race was due to track limits. It is something that can get policed in GPVWC Super League. Now we're watching Fletcher, and this lap he hasn't gained. He hasn't gained. Have the tyres started to drop now? Is that all she wrote for this lead battle? Schluter's lap time, 1:14.7. Fletcher's lap time, 1:15.1. I think he must have made a mistake. I was busy watching the lap times, but even so, I think Schluter might have it in the bag now with just 7 laps to go.
But we need to wait and see how those medium tyres are going to do across these last 7 laps, because he has been on them a little while now. Of course, Fletcher's tyres will also be falling away, but that soft compound is a little bit fresher. So you wonder if that plays into their advantage. And Norbert Jakob on the oldest tyres of the front 3, but it is a hard compound, so you never know. These 2 guys up the front can hit the cliff and suddenly Norbert Jakob wins the race. Xavi Ross is driving incredibly. You know, maybe he suddenly finds like an extra 10 seconds a lap and does all of them and wins the race. Anything's possible, given how chaotic it's been here at the Hockenheim ring this evening, but our eyes are very firmly pinned to that gap on the timing tower between Mark Schluter, looking for his 4th GPVWC Super League win, his first since 2024, and at home here at the Hockenheim ring as well. Tom van der Voort's going side by side with Daniel Scott on the run out of the Mercedes arena. Looks like Scott is going to get through in the Fraser Tartan car. Can van der Voort respond on the run out of Mobile 1 and into this awkward, tricky banked left-hand curve at Sachs, or the Sachs curve to give it its proper name. And you can run multiple lines, of course, through stadium section, but it will spit you out if you're not careful. Looks like the Drake racing car just doesn't quite have the pace that an FTR car possesses. And I tell you what, I think Fletcher, Caitlin, has started to run out of tyre a bit, because that gap looks like it's beginning to come up between himself and Schluter. And Jakob's actually closed in over the last lap. The gap now, well, in the run into braking zones anyway, it's down to 1.9. So now you're thinking, is the 1-2 back on for True North Racing here?
Both True Norths were 0.4 of a second faster than Fletcher on that last lap. It's amazing how quickly that turned around. One lap, Fletcher was nearly a second faster than Schluter. The next lap, he was 0.3 down. That's how quickly the soft tyres can drop off. It's almost like a cliff. And now we're seeing Norbert Jakob coming back towards Sergio Fletcher, and he genuinely has a chance of getting this back again. As does Lucas Murno, because Murno's only 4 seconds behind. He's still extremely fast, and his soft tyres haven't yet shown much evidence of dropping off. He's still in the 1:14.3s. So at the end of that lap, Schluter had a bad lap. Schluter did a 1:16.5. Fletcher did a 1:15.9. That's very slow now. And Jakob a 1:15.2. So it's Jakob on the charge there. Murno's lap was actually invalid, so he may have gone off somewhere, but not in any way that would lose him time. And Murno is in 4th position still. But yeah, you really have to feel that the momentum has swung back towards Norbert Jakob, and if there's going to be a change in these top 5 positions, well, first of all, it's going to be Fournier passing Ross, because that's happening right as we speak. So Fournier gets back through on Xavi Ross for 5th position. But also, it's going to be Jakob on Fletcher, because that seems most imminent to change for us.
Does indeed. We'll wait to see. Now only 1.5 seconds between the Spaniard and the Hungarian. Let's wait and see what's going to unfold. Again, maybe Jakob's tyres start to fall off as well. Yes, it is the C2 hards, but he has been on them longer than either Fletcher has been on his softs or Schluter has been on his mediums. So wait to see if he's managed them to perfection. We saw that he was slow earlier on. Maybe he's just been tyre saving this entire stint for a moment like this, because Fletcher now is starting to close back in on Schluter, who may have made a mistake somewhere. So with only a handful of laps left to go, you'd think the gap's too big, but Jakob could potentially be lining himself up to fight with Schluter right at the death with tyres that he's done an amazing management job on. It's all possible here in GPVWC Super League, round number 11 at the Hockenheim ring, and we are potentially about to have an absolute grandstand finish here. It is just a touch over 3 seconds between your race leader, the hometown hero of Mark Schluter, and Sergio Fletcher. Fletcher himself only a 1 second lead over the rookie in Norbert Jakob to round out the podium places. Any 3 of those could be winning this race. Murno's on the charge behind as well, only 2.5 seconds back. With only a handful of laps, is that too far? As Tom van der Voort has had a big one and makes it at 19 cars still in this race. It looked to me like the entire right rear was ripped off of that Drake racing machine. Let's have a look at what happened. Still fighting with that FTR car. We saw that a few laps ago, those guys having a ding on. Oh, and he loses it with the rear wing open. Huge impact into the concrete barrier on the inside, and it's so easily done. You pull out of the slipstream with the rear wing open, suddenly the front of the car grips up, the rear wing doesn't, and it just sends you around. It's happened to me before. You get very, very red in the cheeks, but it's a very easy mistake to make.
Yeah, it's happened to anyone who's driven a car with DRS, to be honest. But yeah, very unfortunate that one there for Tom van der Voort. We saw that happening a lot back at the Australian Grand Prix, and there were real fears that it was going to be a repeating theme this season. But anyway, that unfortunately means that both of the Drake racing cars are out of the race, and Tom van der Voort and Philip Pushke are the 2 most recent retirements in this one. Now we're watching Norbert Jakob, who has got within a second of Sergio Fletcher. The next landmark will be if he can get within 0.7 of a second, because then he will get the DRS. Schluter has not picked the pace back up, by the way. Schluter is still setting lap times that are relatively slow compared to his rivals, and he's still dropping back. So these 2, yes, they're battling, but they are also catching Mark Schluter. Not quick enough, though, to really make an impact. We're going now onto the penultimate lap of the race. So Schluter breaks the timing beam, goes on to the penultimate lap of the race. Fletcher is second, Jakob third, followed by Murno, and Fournier. Munier is down in 9th position, although has managed to get through his teammate Oscar Soltero. I don't imagine that was a particularly difficult one with respect to Oscar. And now we're watching Lucas Murno, who, as I said before, is also catching these top 3. It's one of the best things about GPWC and Grand Prix racing in general, that yes, the strategy causes cars to drop back and to lose position on track, but at the end of the race they all converge. It's like an accordion effect, bringing everyone back together, and you get a grandstand finish, and we see that more often than not in Super League racing.
You do indeed. Schluter should be home and dry as we're soon to start the final lap of this contest here at Hockenheim. Jakob, a touch under 8/10 back from Sergio Fletcher in P2. Does he have enough left in that locker to make it a 1-2 for the Canadian True Motorsport team? We shall find out. We are starting the final tour. The proverbial white flag is out here in Baden-Württemberg. Mark Schluter is 4.5 kilometers away from his first victory in Super League since 2024 and a home victory to boot. Norbert Jakob, though, the pressure's on. The DRS is open. That rear wing slides away. Lucas Murno now also putting the pressure onto him as he tries to get through Sergio Fletcher to make it a 1-2. He's going to have to dump the battery. He's going to have to go the long way around. Norbert Jakob at the death. It is a true North 1-2, and the Hungarian has managed his tyres perfectly, but he needs to watch out for Lucas Murno with half a lap left to go.
He does indeed, but what a story for Carter McColeman's True North Motorsport team. We said it was practically miraculous when they got that 2nd and 3rd place finish earlier this year. They are going to finish 2 steps higher, 1 each in this final race result. This is a fantastic result that we are going to remember for a very long time. Back in 2024, Mark Schluter went on a late season championship charge, winning 3 races and nearly snagging it. He was 3rd at the end there. We thought he was going to be a championship contender for 2025. He only got 1 podium. Today, he finally gets back to the top of the rostrum. Now look at Norbert Jakob, because it is a True North Motorsport 1-2. Carter McColeman, Mark Schluter and Norbert Jakob can rejoice, and I'm sure there are plenty more people involved in that squad who they can thank when we interview them later on. Sergio Fletcher is 3rd after a charge that didn't quite come through. It stalled out a little bit and he ended up in 3rd place. Lucas Murno gets his joint best Super League result with 4th. Jeffrey Fournier is 5th. Xavi Ross is 6th. Grankvist recovers to 7th. A very good drive from the former champion there. Loic Munier recovers to 8th, although it was a little bit scrappy. He had the pace to win today, and I think that if he hadn't come into contact with other drivers earlier on, he would have at least been on the podium. Tomasz Vok was 9th. Oscar Soltero gets his first top 10 in Super League, so congratulations to Oscar Soltero for that. Jarl Tyen is 11th, then it's Eris Masculi, Stefan Roll, Tom Stevens, and Yannick Bock, who claims 1 point after losing his front wing on the first lap. Missing out on the points were Chris Shepherd, Shimon Frelick, Daniel Scott, Jonas Carola, James Knox, who does finish his Super League debut, so it may not have been world-lightingly fast or anything like that, but James Knox has finished his Super League debut, and you can only go up from there, especially considering he only got half an hour's notice before being called up to race today. And Davide Amaretz finishes in 21st position. So here we see that all again. I'm going to have to go over everything I just said, but you've got the 2 True North Motorsport cars, 1st and 2nd, Sergio Fletcher 3rd, then Murno, Fournier, Ross, Grankvist, Munier, Wok, and Soltero. Congratulations to Oscar Soltero on his first top 10. Then it's Tyen, Masculi, Ruhl, Stevens and Bock. Those are the point scorers. Shepherd, Frelick, Scott, Carola and Knox miss out, although Knox finishes his Super League debut. Davide Amaretz finishes a lap down, and then the failures to finish were Tom van der Voort and Philip Pushke after a crash each. Owen McGorgy after pulling off and saying it was just too hot, which to be honest I agree with. Dylan Fisher retired after an unlucky incident. Alessandro Maggio, oh my goodness, what can he do to get a break? Jose Soriano also completely blameless in his particular incident. That was the incident that he was caught up in with Loic Munier. And Maciej Winnick, we didn't really see what happened to him on the first lap. We just saw the car crabbing back to the pits. So that's how it stands. But Ross, did you ever think you'd see the day where a rookie team, a first season team, finished 1st and 2nd in a Super League Grand Prix?
Well, that was certainly something from True North Motorsport, wasn't it? A huge congratulations to Mark, to Norbert, and to all of the team. Carter McColeman's Canadian squad, they can be absolutely delighted with themselves. I have just been given a couple of tidbits post-race from Omar Gorgi, of all people, actually slid into the old DMs. He's saying, actually, part of the reason why Fletcher's pace dropped so much towards the end, he apparently was massively fuel saving. By the sounds of things, he's one of the drivers that he streams on Twitch. He forgot to block off his fuel. It seems like someone went in and saw that actually he was massively down on fuel and had to do big saving towards the end. It seems that Mark Schluter may have also had to save a little bit of fuel towards the end of this contest. But that could maybe explain why Sergio, suddenly the pace just dropped off a little bit. And suddenly it looked like Norbert had been doing a miracle job on the tyres and been able to slide through. But it's still a great drive from Sergio to third place. But of course, the story of the day, as you said, Caitlin, a 1-2 for True North Motorsport. Their first win ever in Super League. And, of course, a home victory for Mark Schluter as well. A fantastic result for those guys.
Absolutely it was, and a good thing that Fletcher's YouTube chat actually caught that out. We're watching the formation lap. I think the reason for this, I think we're going to try to work out what happened to Maciej Winnick and Yannick Bock. So we have to fast forward through a little bit more than this. Remco gives us the A firm, so that is what we're looking for. But obviously the replay didn't quite take us back to the right point, so you'll have to bear with us for this. In the meantime, make sure you do stick around, because we are going to be bringing in drivers to the interview room before long, and I'm sure we will have some absolutely jubilant drivers that we can speak to after that one. Not least, of course, the True North Motorsport guys. So the camera is currently focused on Jeffrey Fournier, but I believe this happened further back. That's okay. So Yannick Bock started from 11th position, if that helps you, Remco. And I can't remember exactly. So there is Yannick. And he is right with Maciej Winnick, isn't he? So they're going up into turn 2. He twitches about a little bit. Oh, and he gets caught out on the exit because I think, was it Shepard? No, Fournier got sideways. I think Fournier got sideways. Yes, that is what happened. And there may have actually been a touch between Fournier and Winnick. There was a touch between Fournier and Soriano, maybe, which blocked Fournier, dropped him back towards Winnick, and then Bock goes into the back of Winnick. So that's what caught out Bock, front wing off, and Winnick obviously ended up with suspension damage. And realistically, there's not really anyone you can blame for that one. That's the sort of first lap incident that happens. The Road Formula car, if you had to lay it at anyone's feet, it was the Road Formula car that touched the back of... No, sorry, it was, oh, there you see, so it's Fournier who goes into the side of the Road Formula car. So yeah, if you have to lay the blame at anyone, it's got to be Fournier. But even so, it was Winnick checking up in reaction, or cynically you could say overreaction, that caused Bock to go into the back of him. Realistically, I think that's the kind of thing that happens on the first lap. I don't think we'll see a penalty coming out of that one, Ross.
No, I doubt it. I think that's just a racing incident, especially given the context of it all. So we'll get away with that timing. But who knows? Maybe Sandeep Singh, our head of the disciplinary committee, is in a bad mood when he's going to do this race and decides to give penalties. You never know. It's up to him, I suppose. But yes, outside of that moment there, and again, there were a couple of moments over the race, but still, ultimately, a brilliant race. And I got to say, well done to everyone who finished that, given the conditions as well, because it is so warm in Europe once again, and to deal with these conditions. I mean, we saw McGorgy drop out because it was too hot for him. I'm sure that there's probably going to be similar stories from other people who nearly decided to pack it in. It's been brutal. Of course, we now have a 2-week break. No, we don't have a 2-week break. It's the summer break even until we go to Monza. Oh, that's a shame. Everyone calm down. But yes, we've got some time off now until the Italian Grand Prix at Monza on the 10th of September. But wow, yeah, just what a race that was, and a perfect way to put us into the summer break as well.
Well, we still have some more things before the summer break. We have our interviews, so let's bring in our race victor, Mark Schluter. Mark, first of all, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hello.
Fantastic. So, Mark, 2 years ago, you were second place here, but today you have won your home Grand Prix, and for True North, no less. Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. That was long overdue. just so happy and out of breath.
I was saying right at the start of the broadcast that it was only a matter of time before you ended up back on the top step of the podium. I am so glad that you have actually managed to do this, but we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to be a possibility when we saw your qualifying pace. Where did that come from?
Yeah, right from the get-go, felt pretty good in qualifying. Like, I mean, it wasn't the optimal quali lap, but it was enough for pole. Was very tight with Maggio. I think it was between me and him for pole. Kind of surprised that I got it in the end, because I think he was in quali a bit faster than me today. But yeah, just very, very happy.
Well, it worked out for you right from the start, actually, because you ended up getting through into the lead. One thing we were a little bit confused about was Jakob, of course, Norbert, getting that pit stop a lap before you did and getting that undercut. Was that unplanned, or what was going on there?
Yeah, he was struggling a bit more on tire wear. I think I was 10% up on at some point to him, so I think it was the right decision to pit him first.
And that wasn't the end of the strategy, of course, because you ended up going a little bit longer than he did and going on to the mediums at the end. Was there a deliberate effort to split the strategy between you guys, or did it just work out that way?
Yeah, well, as I said, I think Norbert had a bit more struggle with his tire management, and I think it was a bit better for him to go the double hard instead of like me, like onto the mediums. But yeah, I think it just worked out in the end for some reason.
We'll speak a bit more about this with Norbert, I'm sure, and even Carter if he wants to join in. But a first victory for True North Motorsport as well, and a 1-2 no less. I am immensely proud of you guys. I was actually once part of your team. I remind everyone of that every time you guys do well. But no, I had nothing to do with this, and you guys had everything to do with it. You must be insanely proud of your team.
Yeah. I think we did such a good prep this time, and I think everyone deserves the praise. Like, very, very good job from everyone. And yeah, just want to thank Carter again for bringing me into this team, and I think this is gonna have a bright future together.
Totally agree. My goodness, especially if today is anything to go by. But yeah, you really, really do have a bright future, both in terms of yourself and in terms of your team. Mark, there have been a few instances you've had up until this point in the season, and you know, a couple of times where you've run out of fuel, and a couple of times where you've come into contact with other drivers. Is that a difficult thing to get over, or is it just something you can learn from every time?
Yeah, you always learn from it. I think it's just that I think I'm just miscalculating a bit how long the car is and such, and just leave tiny bit or just a pixel to less space sometimes, and then it gives a collision. But yeah, I think this stuff like happens. You always learn from it, and you can always improve from it.
Totally agree. Very, very good. Ross, since we have our race leader here, is there anything that you want to add before we let Mark go to celebrate his victory?
I mean, you covered most of it, Caitlin. First of all, Mark, a huge congratulations. I mean, you had a hell of a night. Pole position at home. Wasn't a grandstand, but led a fair few laps and a fantastic win for yourself. What does that mean to you to, you know, get back onto the top step at your home race, the first win for True North in Superleague, and in horribly warm conditions as well?
Yeah, I said it already. It means really a lot. Like, after this last year of a horrible season, and the start of this year where I was wanting to fight for the championship, maybe it just feels good that after 2 years I finally can win again, and yeah, I'm just a bit lost for words what to say, but yeah, I'm just happy as fuck.
Thank you very much.
That's all for me. Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you, Ross, and of course, thank you to Mark Schlitter, especially for the colourful language at the end there. But no, congratulations, you've been awesome.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. All right, we're going to bring in our second placed finisher, who of course deserves just as much praise for that performance. Norbert Jakob. Hello, Norbert.
Good evening, lads.
Good evening indeed. So, Norbert, second position, but a 1-2 for True North Motorsport. You guys had so much pace today, and I'll ask you the same question I asked Mark. Where did all that pace come from?
Good. You know, Caitlin, this is an amazing question because I was actually thinking about that. Maybe I will not even be in the top 20 in the qualifying today, because the guys I've been working with, they were rapid all the way in the practice, and I'm not even kidding, my personal best was more than 3/10 of Mark's personal best. And I expected a similar qualifying as in Hungary in terms of how close it would be, and I'm like, yeah, I'm cooked. And then we arrived into the official practice session, and then the qualifying, and I'm like, hold up, maybe we are not cooked. And then I was just had to lock in all the way. And then, yeah, it was amazing. In qualifying, I basically did almost my personal best in the actual event, and yeah, I think we finished P1 and or P2 and P3. No, P1 and P3 in quali already. Then we decided to just go aggressive with the strategy and put on the softs in the beginning. Obviously, I had a horrible tire wear as usually, but we still managed to make it a 1-2. I think it was already lap 2 when I could overtake Alessandro for the second place. And then from that point on, I was actually, in the first stint, I felt I was a bit faster, and I was not begging, but like I was asking my engineer, like, what if, just imagine if I overtook Mark and I was faster, like, can we do it? But he said no, like, let's just stay behind him, and I was completely fine with it. And even now, I'm not jealous of him at all or anything like that. We did amazing team effort, and I'm celebrating my P2 as Mark is celebrating his victory, so I'm super happy for him. And then in the second stint, I've had some troubles finding pace. Same with the third stint as well. And in the meanwhile, I also had to save some fuel as well because we underfueled. But at least we kept it consistent in the Super Venture group because Sergio and Mark made the same mistake as well. But they faced the issue in the end, and I was working on solving this issue in the middle and the beginning of the race. So yeah, and overall, it was an amazing race. I'm so glad I could overtake Sergio in the end, because obviously 1-2 looks way nicer than a 1-3. And yeah, I just actually checked, and we are second in the constructors, so I'm absolutely over the moon, guys.
As you should be, and yeah, I'm not surprised you've moved up in the constructors so much. But yeah, a fantastic result there. It did look in threat at certain points. After that second pit window, I was a little surprised to see you come out in so much traffic, and you actually got a bit of a touch there from Jeffrey. Was there any damage done as a result of that, and did it damage your race at all?
Yeah, well, I had damage already on lap 4 from Alessandro bumping me. But it was nothing major actually, and because the game didn't show anything blue in the end of the car, and in the repair menu it only showed like repair bodywork. I'm not even sure if I got any damage from I'm not even sure, but it was Chubby and Fournier who was close to me at that point. I'm not sure which of them touched me, but yeah, all in all, the car still felt fine. So yeah, it was okay.
And looks like we've lost Caitlin briefly, so I'll jump in with my question. First of all, what P2, but baby, that's how you do it.
Let's
well
go!
done, man. Oh mate, what a drive though. Seriously, that was mega from you. I guess I've got to ask. I mean, this is your second year of GPVWC. It's your first year in Super. Obviously, you were Superlight's vice champion last season. and you've now had 3 podiums, a best finish of 2nd here today in Super League. Norbert, do you feel like you can really go and fight with the big boys out there, and you're showing that you have what it takes to be someone who can be fighting for race wins and for championships in the future?
What do you think I'm already doing in my first season, mate? I'm there. I'm doing it. Like, I even skipped 2 races this season, and I'm P6 in the standings. If you take a look at the current standings, because the guys just updated it, I'm within 20 points or 20 few points of being 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. So it's as close as it gets. So yeah. I'm still waiting for my race victory, but no pressure at all or anything like that. But I feel the progress is going in a good way, and sooner or later I think I will get it. If not this season, then maybe next season. If not next season, then maybe I will stay here until I'm 65 years old. You never know, but I will get a race win in Super League.
I'm sure you will, mate. But again, that's all from me. What a drive tonight, Norbert. That was mega. And of course, a 1-2 for the team as well with their first win in Super League. Huge congratulations to you. Once again to Mark and the whole True North squad as well. You guys deserve the celebrations.
Yes, thank you so much.
Absolutely, you do. Just before I let you go, Norbert, sorry, what I was trying to say before, while I had my mic muted, which was not very helpful, is I was saying towards the end of the race, there's surely more people than just yourself, Mark, and Carter behind this squad. Is there anyone else who does work with you that you want to thank for this achievement?
Yes, exactly. I would like to thank the hardworking work of Osama Knani for like more than a year now, a year and a half. And also Juho Sopanen just joined our team as like a 2nd engineer to help us during the races. And they just do deliver the best quality of strategies from race to race. I have to admit, I'm always in doubt whether we are on the winning strategy, but 99% of the cases we are, and all it takes is to just let me fume for 10 minutes, and then I will realize that we are on the correct strategy. And spoiler alert, it happened today as well. So yeah, I'm just very impressed by all the effort they put in. And yeah, I can't wait to continue working with these guys.
I mean, you said it today. You said you thought you were cooked, and you ended up cooking. So congratulations, and
thank you so much.
I'm honestly so proud of this team.
Thank you.
All right, so we've interviewed both Mark Schluter and Norbert Jakob, 1st and 2nd for True North Motorsports. Unfortunately, we don't have Sergio Fletcher here, despite, I believe he did take 2nd in the championship today, but congratulations to Sergio as well. We can speak to 4th place. Lucas Murno is here. Hello, Lucas. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear.
Hello. Sorry, I should have told you were going to be next in the broadcast room, but anyway. So first of all, that is your joint best result in Super League. Very well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Guess this race was the most strongest so far. I didn't expect so much with the cars performance, but the training, but I could reach some kind of balance with the tire wear on this track, so we could be competitive there. In the end, I could bring such a good result for Lion that makes us overtake the Drake, I guess. So it's a pretty strong result. I'm pretty happy with my pace as well. I feel like I'm improving such as races are going. Despite my highs and lows in the beginning of the season, I can say from myself I'm learning without the mistakes. So I see such a strong grid. I'm proud to be here in this grid and keeping in a good way, and knowing this pace could have reached couldn't have done any better than that. So from my side, I can be very happy for that, and thanks everyone who watched this video, who worked on the setup, and all the cheers from the people who was rooting for me, surely. So yeah, thank you very much for cheering there, and let's think for the next races. I think could see some great future out there.
Now, Lucas, we've spoken in the past about how you are fantastic in changeable conditions. I remember Mexico last year, and then, of course, a couple of rounds ago, you did it again. It's a whole different kettle of fish doing it in the dry, isn't it? Different setup and everything. This is probably the most pace you've had in the dry, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. It sure is the most strongest pace in the pure pace, so that's a great pointer. It can be with a very good side for the next races out there. I'm learning so much with this car. This car is very tricky to drive, so by all the races are happening there, I can understand a little bit more about those challenges this car can bring. So I think now I can say for the next races and can be a little bit more stronger, but also I need to check it out for all the drivers, because everyone is very strong. It is such next competitive grid, 1/10 you can be down like 5 positions, which is crucial. So it was a good race. A good qualifying can bring you a great possibility for a good race, and today I can say I can be really proud from a good qualifying, a good race pace there.
Well, you certainly achieved that today. Congratulations on a good result. What should we expect from you in the next couple of races?
Hard to say, because in some races we can be strong. Other races are a little bit more difficult. It's hard to predict in such a strong grid, but I can see with a good sight for the next race. Italy Grand Prix will be the most tight grid so far. So every 10th will probably be like at 10 positions as last year in ASL1. So it's gonna be very difficult to find such a good gap. But well, we are here competing with such a strong grid. So I need to keep on such a strong grow up as well. So I feel like it, and let's keep going on it and see what happens.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in the next couple of races. Well done, Lucas.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we've spoken to our top two. We weren't able to speak to third place, but we've spoken to 3 drivers from the top of the grid now. I've just secured one last interview for the day, and it's something a little bit different. Today we saw a debut, James Knox. Hello, James.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. Very hot. I'll put it that way. Very hot and sweaty.
I was going to say, I mean, you're from the UK as well, and my thermometer was registering 32 degrees earlier, so it's not exactly comfortable right here, right now. But anyway, you just completed your first Super League race. How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, decent achievement, finishing it. I'll happily take that. All things considering, I'd only got back from work at about 5 o'clock, and I only knew I'd be driving tonight at about 6:30. So, yeah, it's pretty good to finish it, and be as close as I was, and actually have people in front of me and behind me even. So, yeah, it actually feels quite good.
So how did that come about then, with you only finding out you were racing about an hour before?
So I opened up my computer once I got home, checked the GPV Discord, saw that Fraser Tarson needed a driver urgently, and I thought, I've got nothing else to do this evening. Why not give it a go? And yeah, it was, the back and forth was a little bit slower than I liked it to be, because I like a little bit more track time before a Super League race. But no, yeah, I did about as much practice as I could in about half hour, and yeah, I got the go ahead. Yeah, that's how that came about.
So were you even on FTR's books before that?
I wouldn't say so. Not really. No. I remember Toby did. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but Toby was talking to me in January about a possible seat in Super League, but yeah, that really never came to fruition. And yeah, It's not. I wouldn't say I was really on their card, to be honest.
Well, it's funny how these things can come about sometimes. I was talking about your results earlier as well. You're primarily an FS2 driver, of course, but jumping up to Super League is a bit of a step. How was it compared to some of the racing you've done before?
Oh, it's very, very different. I mean, I finished last year driving in Super Lights, which I had moderate results, scoring decently regular points. I started SL2 this year and really struggled. You know, it was really difficult for me. I couldn't get any setup right. It's just really difficult. And so I made a very conscious decision to drop down to FS2 and get my confidence back up through those races. And yeah, it's a big step up. I've definitely had, albeit not a lot of experience, but I think enough experience to have a clean enough race to finish.
That's the message then. When Knox takes Knox, he gets back up.
Yeah,
So,
that's the one.
can we expect to see you back again in the future?
Yes. So the deal I've made with Moritz Kropp is I'm going to be driving for this one, and I'm also going to be driving in, I think it's Monza next after the summer break. I'll be driving there as well in Super League. So it's a 2-race deal. So yeah, it's going to be very exciting to maybe put a couple more laps in and really sort of hone my craft for Monza.
Well, it's a big difference between 4 weeks and 1 hour, so you should have more
Exactly.
more chance to prepare. So
Yeah.
if you can do this well today, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you can do on that occasion. So best of luck.
Oh, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you to you. All right. So that was all that we've got time for tonight. As you can see, we unfortunately have a 4-week break before the Italian Grand Prix. So get comfortable. Don't go anywhere. We'll be expecting you when we come back. And of course, the Italian Grand Prix is a real staple of the calendar, a real classic of the Grand Prix world. And I wouldn't miss it for anything. Thank you very much, Ross McIntyre. You've been wonderful at keeping us company today and always fantastic to bounce off of. And I always say it at the end of Super League Grand Prix because they never really fail to disappoint. But what a result, what a race, as always.
Yep, certainly was. And again, pleasure to be alongside you once again, Caitlin. But yeah, an amazing race to kind of bring an end to our summer contests here at GPVWC. And again, a huge congratulations to everybody at True North. Real historic result for them here this evening. And of course, Mark Schluter as well, taking a home victory here at Hockenheim. But yes, shame we got a month break, but quite frankly, given the temperatures, I now want to go to bed for the 4 weeks we've got until the Italian Grand Prix. But yes, a very enjoyable race. Bring on a bit of a break, and then we'll be back for our last 5 rounds of the season.
Totally agree. And some last YouTube comments. The Pablos221 echoing that you said deserved 1-2 from True North. Congratulations. And Carter McColeman himself, who I did approach for an interview, but he said he's busy, which is fair enough. He said, let's focus and celebrate Mark's win, not dwell on incidents in the past. Amazing job today, Mark. I couldn't agree more. I know I brought up the incidents that Mark has had in the past, but no notes. Mark absolutely deserved it today, and I am very happy for him and, of course, the team. So that's all for 2 weeks, and we shall see you then. Definitely look out in the meantime for other things on GPVWC socials, and in the 2 weeks leading up to that race, we will of course have support races and the rest of the career ladder. Until then, take care, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.